Chapter 221. This was a method that Lin Jun had thought of a long time ago. As long as he covered himself with the liquid metal, the leeches wouldn't be able to do anything to him. If there were some strange fish running amok in the water, this method would definitely not work. A thin layer of liquid metal wouldn't be able to protect Lin Jun. However, the leeches wouldn't be a problem. These things only had suction cups, blood-sucking, and paralysis. However, they didn't have sharp teeth or claws, so they couldn't break through Lin Jun's protective layer of liquid metal. He had just thought of this method not long ago. He didn't expect it to come in handy so quickly. As his body sank into the lake, he seemed to be able to hear Hansen shouting excitedly on the shore. Hansen was really angry. He didn't expect Lin Jun to actually dive into the water. Now, he couldn't chase after him. However, as an assassin who had accepted a mission, Hansen also had his professionalism. He wouldn't give up easily until he saw Lin Jun die and got some evidence. He saw Lin Jun use the liquid metal to protect himself after diving into the water, but he didn't think that it would last long. Little Dongfang, your metal eggshell won't be able to protect you for long. The air inside is limited. At most, it will last you half a day. You're a war god. You can use Dantian Qi, but it's impossible for you to have unlimited Qi. At most, you'll have to surface in 3 days. When that time comes, you'll die. You'll either die by my hands or those disgusting creatures' hands. Hansen stood on the shore and shouted for a while, but no one responded. He felt bored and decided to camp on the shore. He took out his tent and food. He decided to stay here and wait for the moment when Lin Jun couldn't hold on any longer and surfaced. Lin Jun didn't care about him. After entering the water, the leeches gradually dispersed and hid under the lotus leaf. Lin Jun quietly changed the shape of the liquid metal. He turned the liquid metal into a diving suit and covered his entire body without any gap. This could effectively block the leech's suction cup. Since the liquid metal was no longer an eggshell, it no longer had any buoyancy. Lin Jun continued to sink and soon arrived at the bottom of Lotus Lake. The water here wasn't particularly deep, only about 20 to 30 meters deep. However, the water area was not small and it was pitch black underwater. Lin Jun thinned the liquid metal in front of him until it was almost transparent. Then, relying on his night vision ability, he began to search under the Lotus Lake. This lake isn't small, but it's much smaller than Tree Heart Lake. As long as that special meteorite is here, I'll definitely be able to find it. If I use the Dantian Qi now, I can stay underwater for 3 days. 3 days should be enough. Because of the existence of the leeches, there were no other fish in the lake. Sometimes, the giant leeches would swim past Lin Jun, but they wouldn't look at Lin Jun. This made Lin Jun feel very relieved. He began a net-like search, rummaging through the lake water one area after another. Almost all the stones in the water had been searched by him. It wasn't until the next night that Lin Jun finally found the target of his trip. A golden-purple stone was located in the northeast direction of Lotus Lake, amidst the silt. Found it! I finally found it! Holding the stone, Lin Jun was very excited. This was a meteorite with the ability to stimulate the growth of mental power. This kind of thing was taken away by the extraterrestrial civilization as a treasure. The mental power contained in it was definitely extraordinary. Lin Jun held the meteorite and let the liquid metal spread out bit by bit, gradually wrapping the meteorite until it reached Lin Jun's chest. Once again, the liquid metal turned into a big ball. Lin Jun sat cross-legged in this ball and turned it into 2 hooks. He hooked them on a rock to prevent the big ball from floating up. My current mental power is at the early stage of dark gold. There is still a long way to go before I reach the middle stage. I wonder how much this meteorite, which was taken as a treasure by the extraterrestrial civilization, can increase my mental power. Even if it won't increase by much, it will definitely increase. As long as my mental power surpasses Hansen's, I won't have to be afraid of his mental attack. At that time, his advantage will be gone. Assassinating me. There is a price to pay. Lin Jun thought in his heart and placed the meteorite in front of his chest. After adjusting his breathing, he felt that his Dantian Qi could last for more than a day. It should be enough time. Let's begin. You've put in so much effort for me. Let me see how much energy you have. A stream of mental power slowly seeped into the meteorite. The things in Lin Jun's mind suddenly changed. It was almost a vast starry sky. Dark golden light shone everywhere. Occasionally, a bit of starlight swayed in it. Lin Jun immediately let out a comfortable moan when his mental power poured in. What a powerful mental power! This power is simply a great supplement for a spirit reader master. It seems that this meteorite really gave me a huge surprise. If I absorb all this power, my mental power will definitely break through the early stage. Lin Jun no longer had any scruples. His mental power was like a greedy snake, gulping down the omnipresent mental power. At this moment, Lin Jun was like a whirlpool, and the mental power in the meteorite was like a big lake. The lake water began to swirl into Lin Jun's mind. This is great. This is great. This is power. This is mental power. I feel like my mental power is increasing at an unprecedented rate. In less than an hour, Lin Jun suddenly felt as if something had been broken, and his mind was suddenly enlightened. I've advanced. I've actually advanced. Haha, how long has it been? I've actually advanced from the early stage to the middle stage of dark gold. At this time, the mental power in the meteorite didn't seem to have decreased by much. If Lin Jun went out now, his mental power would surpass Hansen's. However, he wasn't in a hurry to move. He had to absorb all the mental power in one go. He wouldn't leave until he had absorbed all the mental power in the meteorite. If it took a total of 100 small squares of mental power to advance from the early stage of dark gold to the late stage of dark gold, Lin Jun's mental power would increase by 1 small square every 10 minutes. After entering the middle stage of dark gold, his absorption speed had increased. After 3 hours, he had advanced by about 20% on the path to the middle stage of dark gold. Come on, Lin Jun. Maybe you can advance to the peak of the middle stage of dark gold today. Only then will you be able to defeat the foreigners on the shore and compete in the war god arena. After 6 hours, Lin Jun's mental power had reached half of the middle stage of dark gold. At this time, the mental power in the meteorite had decreased by almost half. After 10 hours, Lin Jun's mental power had increased again. It had reached 3/4 of the middle stage of dark gold. There wasn't much mental power left in the meteorite. It's almost over. It should be dawn now. I've absorbed most of the mental power in the meteorite. I'm sure I can reach the peak of the middle stage of dark gold, but it's hard to say if I can advance to the late stage of dark gold. If I can advance to the late stage of dark gold, I won't be afraid of anyone in the war god realm. Even someone as strong as Dongfang Jun only has the mental power of the middle stage of dark gold. Even if there are some outstanding geniuses in the world, their mental power won't surpass mine. It's almost impossible for them to be on par with me. Although Lin Jun was excited, he didn't stop absorbing the mental power. Gradually, the golden mental power in Lin Jun's spiritual sea was shrinking. At this moment, the dark gold mental power had already surpassed the gold mental power. After 12 hours, Lin Jun's mental power had reached the peak of the middle stage of dark gold. Just a little more, just a little more. Just a little more mental power and I can break through. Lin Jun's mental power was like a huge snake that could devour heaven and earth. It was trying its best to absorb all the energy in the meteorite. The remaining mental power had nowhere to hide and was absorbed by Lin Jun. Boom. Finally, another expansion began. The dark gold energy in Lin Jun's spiritual sea had already occupied 2/3 of the space. The late stage of dark gold. What a powerful force, what a powerful force! Normally, those who have late-stage dark gold mental power would have to be at least a star realm spirit reader. But I have it now. My internal power is almost running out. I have to go out immediately. I'm going out now. Lin Jun threw away the completely useless meteorite and stepped on the bottom of the lake. Wrapped in liquid metal, he suddenly jumped up more than 10 meters. Teleportation. The late-stage dark gold Lin Jun teleported 100 meters away and directly appeared in the sky. After waiting for 3 days on the shore, Hansen, who was a little impatient, didn't even notice Lin Jun coming out. That was because he was paying attention to the water and the 50 meters above the water. He didn't expect that Lin Jun would directly teleport 100 meters away. Lin Jun looked at the restless Hansen on the shore and the corners of his mouth curled up slightly. He opened his arms and pounced over like a goshawk. Following Lin Jun's approach, he opened a hand from afar and enveloped the mental defense type astral tool on Hansen's neck. This necklace is not bad. It's mine. Hearing Lin Jun's voice above his head, Hansen's soul almost left his body. His body was suddenly covered in cold sweat. He didn't know how Lin Jun came out, but he still instinctively released a mental attack. You finally came out to die, Eastern brat. Boom. This time, the mental defensive astral tool didn't completely protect him. The huge gap between the two of them instantly made him feel a roar in his mind. Then, he felt a chill on his neck. The astral tool necklace had fallen into Lin Jun's hands. Lin Jun landed on the ground and slowly put the necklace into his clothes. Western brat, you borrowed the power of this necklace to repeatedly use mental attacks to attack others. Have you tasted it yourself? There's no need for me. I'll let you have a taste of the upgraded version of my mental attack, Soul Lock. Lin Jun looked at the stunned Hansen. Suddenly, his eyes focused and a powerful mental power whizzed over. Chapter 222. In the past, Lin Jun would only use Soul Lock when his opponent was in a trance or under special circumstances. It was rare for him to use Soul Lock directly. But now that his spirit had reached the late stage of dark gold, it could be described as vast as the ocean. Coupled with his current aura, he was able to break through Hansen's spirit defense. Hansen's eyes were dull as he stood there twitching. Lin Jun slowly walked to his side, grabbed his collar, and stared into his soul. Tell me everything you know. My name is Hansen. I'm from Madrid headquarters city. I received an order from someone in Ice City. That person's name is Whaley. He belongs to the Gale Dojo. He offered 3 billion for your life. If you're captured alive, he'll add another 3 billion. Assassins were supposed to keep their clients secret. Unfortunately, under Lin Jun's soul lock, they couldn't hide anything. Are you an assassin organization? Yes. Our name is Nightingale. Our leader is a Star Realm master called John, but he never appears. Now, there are 2 leaders in the organization. They are the young mistress, whose face no one knows, and the arrogant and powerful Al. I belong to the young mistress. Did you come alone? 2 of us. There's also Alice, but she went back. I'll call her when I get out, and she'll come to pick me up. Lin Jun asked for a while, and got a rough idea of what was going on. According to Harson, Nightingale was a very powerful assassin organization. There were also internal conflict. He and Alice were in a small group, and they belonged to a leader called the Young Mistress. He saw Gale Dojo's mission on the internet. He and Alice accepted the mission and came to Ice City. They didn't expect to fall into his hands. After asking a lot of questions about the European Union warriors, Lin Jun wanted to take Hansen's life. But when he thought that a person with soul lock wouldn't betray him, he gave up on the idea. Hansen was a 7th level war god with an 8th level of compressed Dantian. At the same time, he was also a dark gold spirit reader master. His strength was also very strong. It would be better to keep him alive so that he could collect the A-grade mutated poisonous insects crystals for himself. Now was the golden period of collecting poisonous insect crystals in Woodalian Pond. Now there was only Lin Jun here. When the Ministry of Science and Technology exposed the secret of the crystals, this place would be overcrowded. At that time, the mutated venomous insects here would be in short supply. Countless war gods would even stay here for a long time. Although the mutated venomous insects here were ferocious, they couldn't stop the war gods who desired to level up. As the number of venomous insects here decreased, the war gods wouldn't be able to level up as high as Lin Jun. Leaving Hansen to collect crystals nearby, Lin Jun continued forward, heading towards the second volcanic lake of the 5 Dalian pools, Swallow Mountain Lake. The special meteorite in the first volcanic lake was a psychic meteorite, which was specially used by telekinesis masters. The meteorite in the second volcanic lake was also of great use to Lin Jun. The second meteorite in Swallow Mountain Lake contained a resplendent diamond-like crystal. This crystal was called the Eternal Crystal. Its status was equivalent to that of a diamond on Earth. It was the strongest crystal on that broken planet. This kind of eternal crystal could be used to forge weapons, but flames couldn't dissolve it. Only lightning ions could soften it. After softening, it could be fused with liquid metal, greatly increasing the strength of the liquid metal. However, not everyone could master the power of lightning ions. This kind of eternal crystal was more of an expensive decoration in the interstellar. If Lin Jun's liquid metal could be fused with the eternal crystal, the solidified weapon could reach the strength of a high-grade astral weapon. However, this was the limit of liquid metal. At least, Lin Jun didn't know how to continue improving it. A high-grade astral weapon that could transform at any time was very useful to Lin Jun at this stage. Its value even exceeded that of an ordinary top-grade astral weapon. Moreover, this piece of eternal crystal was the only one that Lin Jun knew of on Earth. Its value was immeasurable. Even if the price was tens of billions or even hundreds of billions, someone would probably buy it with everything they had. Therefore, Lin Jun had to get this eternal crystal. However, when he arrived at Swallow Mountain Lake, Lin Jun encountered trouble. There were no S-class mutated poisonous insects in Swallow Mountain Lake, but all the crabs in the water were extremely tenacious crabs. An A-class mutated beast, rampaging crab. This kind of crab was the size of a small car. Its 2 huge pincers were simply able to cut through gold and jade. When Lin Jun entered Swallow Mountain Lake for the first time, he was almost cut in half by a crab. He couldn't even get close to the edge of the water. Moreover, this kind of crab didn't only live in the lake. It could even run to the shore and instantly shoot dozens of meters away. Moreover, there were so many of them that it was frightening. If Lin Jun wasn't able to teleport and fly, he probably wouldn't even have a chance to escape. Later, Lin Jun brought Hansen and made many attempts, but they could only kill a few scattered crabs. They still couldn't enter Swallow Mountain Lake. Now that there were still 2 months before the start of the God of War arena, Lin Jun helplessly came up with a stupid idea. He let Hansen be in charge of attracting the crabs. Then, he went into the water at a place with fewer crabs and looked for the location of the eternal crystal. Every time a crab attacked Lin Jun could use his teleportation ability, which had reached a distance of 100 meters, to escape in an instant. Although the area of Swallow Mountain Lake wasn't small, it was still possible to explore 1 to 2% of the lake every day. Lin Jun believed that he would be able to find the eternal crystal if he continued like this. Every time he lured the crabs, Hansen would entangle a few of them. When Lin Jun teleported over, the 2 of them would kill them together and obtain the A-class crystals. With these A-class crystals as a foundation, Lin Jun's cultivation speed improved by leaps and bounds every day. He would even give some to Hansen, allowing him to improve slowly as well. There were too many crabs here. Even if Lin Jun and Hansen both absorbed the crystals, the number of crabs in Swallow Mountain Lake didn't seem to decrease. Lin Jun even started to store A-class crystals. Every day there would be about 7 or 8 A-class crystals left in his spatial ring. Days passed. After 1.5 months, a quarter of Swallow Mountain Lake had been explored. Lin Zhen had also advanced from early stage Class 4 to mid-stage Class 4. 2 months later, half of Swallow Mountain Lake had been explored. Lin Zhen had advanced to late-stage Class 4 while Hansen had reached peak Class 7 and was about to break through. Hansen told Lin Zhen that Alice would come to pick him up at this time. However, Lin Zhen didn't let Hansen leave. Without Hansen, there would be no one to help him lure the crabs away. At this time, he really needed Alice. As for Alice, if she wanted to wait, then let her wait. 2.5 months later, Lin Zhen finally made another breakthrough and advanced to the 5th grade War God. His combat strength increased once again. The exploration of Swallow Mountain Lake was 3/4 complete. Unfortunately, he still couldn't find the Eternal Crystal. Lin Zhen felt helpless about this. His luck could be said to be good, but sometimes it could be said to be bad. Why was the Eternal Crystal hidden in the last quarter of the lake? 5 days before the start of the War God Arena, Hansen had advanced to the 8th grade War God. Lin Zhen had also taken a big step forward on the path of an early stage Class 5 War God. He estimated that in another 8 to 10 days, he would advance to mid-stage Class 5 War God. At this time, he finally found the Eternal Crystal. He and Hansen had set up a campsite. With the idea of searching from far to near, he started searching from the outer circle. In the end, he didn't expect the Eternal Crystal to be in the water area closest to their campsite. After finding the Eternal Crystal, Lin Zhen didn't know whether to laugh or cry. This was probably the case with him. If he had found the Eternal Crystal, he might have gone to explore the 3rd volcanic lake. In the end, he wasted all his time here. However, there were gains and losses. Not only did he obtain the Eternal Crystal, he also had a short period of time to cultivate and stabilize his realm. Reaching the peak of early stage Class 5 War God was already very good. Looking at the Eternal Crystal in Lin Zhen's hand, Hansen's eyes began to shine. Wow! This crystal is really beautiful. I can guarantee that this must be the most beautiful stone in the world, no, the most beautiful stone in the universe. Lin Zhen held the Eternal Crystal in his hand and waved it at the sky. Even though there was no sunlight shining in, Lin Zhen's hand still emitted a colorful light. It was so beautiful that it seemed unreal. Hansen also held it. Lin Zhen, this colorful transparent stone is very heavy. It's at least 100 kilograms. Yes, this stone is very dense. What are you going to do with it? Refine a weapon. Hansen was stunned. It can't be. Can a weapon made of stone be sturdy? Lin Zhen smiled. Put on your astral armor. The surface of Hansen's body flashed and a mid-grade astral armor appeared. Lin Zhen took a sharp edge of the Eternal Crystal and scratched the mid-grade armor. It actually made a dent. Oh my god! This stone is unbelievably hard, but Lin Zhen, how are you going to smelt it? If you burn it, won't it vaporize? Don't waste it. I have my ways. Don't worry about it. Get ready. We'll leave Wadalian Lake in a day. I'll follow your arrangements. Lin Zhen, you're strange. Why do I like to listen to you so much? It should be your charisma that moves me. Hansen muttered to himself and walked away. A person whose soul was locked was no different from an ordinary person, but he would never know that his soul was locked. He would not do anything harmful to Lin Zhen, nor would he reveal any of his secrets. Hansen went to collect the crab crystals again, while Lin Zhen took out the liquid metal. The lightning ions in his body began to swarm out and enter the Eternal Crystal. Bursts of dazzling colorful light flashed. The Eternal Crystal seemed to have met its natural nemesis and began to gradually soften. The liquid metal at Lin Zhen's waist immediately covered it and mixed with the Eternal Crystal. They gradually fused. An hour later, Lin Zhen stood up. He raised his hand and a piece of colorful metal weighing 150 kilograms flew up. After circling in the air, it turned into a belt again and condensed at Lin Zhen's waist. However, this belt was too eye-catching. Lin Zhen made an animal skin cover to cover it. Chapter 223. After Lin Zhen was done, he called out to Hansen. Hey! It's time to go. Hansen had just lured a crab to kill. After hearing Lin Zhen's call, he reluctantly ran over. Lin Zhen, the crabs here are delicious. Should we take some with us? You can take them. I've already brought a dozen. Lin Zhen had already discovered the deliciousness of the crabs here. Each one weighed close to a ton. The crab roe and crab meat inside satisfied Lin Zhen's appetite. The ancient god ring that he took from Yu Feng's body was huge. Moreover, it was an absolute vacuum that could store food. In such a large space, there was only one black specter parked there. Since she had nothing to do, Lin Zhen collected a large number of rampage crabs and stored them inside, waiting for future consumption. Hansen's space ring was not as big as Lin Zhen's. There was not much space after only one crab. Let's go. This is really a failed mission. I can't beat you at all. No wonder Miss told us not to accept missions from the East. Lin, are all the warriors in the East as strong as you? Lin Zhen glanced at Hansen. I'm just a special case. That's good. If they were all as strong as you, we wouldn't need to fight in the war god arena. We would directly recognize China as the #1 in the war god alliance. The two of them rose into the air and went straight to the entrance of Wadalian Lake. As he walked out, Lin Zhen turned back to take a look. There were still 3 more volcanic lakes that he had yet to explore. There were even better things in them, but he didn't have the time now. He could only come back after the qualifiers. He hoped that by then, there wouldn't be too many people here. The two of them walked out of the entrance of Wadalian Lake. Hansen first looked around and did not find Alice's aircraft. He scratched his head awkwardly. Alice actually did not come to pick me up. She's not a good friend. He even walked over to the guard. Hey, pervert brother, did you see a white aircraft come by? This guard was the same one who had been on duty when Lin Zhen and Hansen came in. This month, he was on duty again. When he saw Hansen, he said angrily, "What pervert? You're a pervert. Fortunately, you didn't flirt with Alice last time. Otherwise, you would have become a pile of mud by now." Only then did the guard remember who Hansen was. You're talking about that Western chick? She came here more than 10 days ago, but when she saw that you didn't come out, she left again. She also told me to tell you to call her. She also said that you took on a mission without permission. You'll be dead when you come out. The guard said gloatingly. What happened this time? It wasn't my decision to accept the mission on my own. If you fail, you'll take it out on me. Why didn't you wait for me? Forget it, I'd better make a call. Hansen frowned and took out his phone. Make the call, but you have to think about how you're going to explain it to your partner. Hansen nodded. Lin, it doesn't matter if I can't complete the mission. However, if I fail, Alice will definitely deal with you. She's a 9th grade war god. Her strength is much stronger than mine. You have to be careful. It doesn't matter. A warrior's life is a process of constantly facing challenges. I'll wait for her to come. Okay, then let's meet at the war god arena. You mustn't be eliminated too early. Hansen began to call Alice to pick him up. Listening to Hansen's tone, Alice seemed to be not far away. She said that she would come in a while. Lin Zhen didn't want to meet the other assassins. He took out the black ghost and rose into the sky amidst Hansen's exclamations of admiration. After returning to Ice City, Lin Zhen didn't fly back to the city. Instead, he landed outside the city and walked into the city. He slowly walked on the streets of Ice City. It was autumn now and the weather was pleasant. There were many people on the streets of Ice City. Lin Zhen walked to the east side of the city. This was the world of warriors. Advertisements about the War God Arena could be seen everywhere on the street. Supporting Ice City's contestant. Ice City's War God will shine all over the world. Raising both hands and praying for Ice City's War God. Let them pass the preliminaries smoothly. The War God Arena's War God Arena will be a tiger among sheep. The War God Arena's War God Arena's War God Arena will be personally participating. Distance tests a horse's strength. Everyone, please support Gale Ma Yao. Gale War God Do Along, Ice City's Hope. The King has returned. Please support Dragon Slaying Dojo's Exan Ru Hai. Guangying. There were posters everywhere on the street. Every dojo had their own large posters of their contestant. Below each poster, there were many warriors' signatures. They also wrote their blessings, hoping that the contestant would achieve good results in the War God Arena. Lin Zhen didn't have anything to do now. He walked slowly and looked at the posters. Tong Yuehu's poster was at the front. As the dojo master of the number 1 dojo, he received the most attention. Although there were many warriors who didn't like him, in front of an unprecedented global competition like the War God Arena, most people chose to support him. Behind Tong Yuehu, there were Generals Heng and Ha. Ma Yao and Wei Li were also 2 powerful war gods. These were the 3 contestants of the Gale War God Arena. They were the main hope for the 3 of them to achieve good results. Of course, other than the 3 of them, there were more than 10 Gale War gods. They more or less had people supporting them, but they weren't as popular as the 3 of them. After walking past Gale's poster, it was Gale's poster. Gale's first poster was of a warrior with deep eyes. He was a 9th grade war god in his early 30s. His name was Duolong, and he was the main force of Ice City's Gale. Lin Zhen still had some impression of this person. During the Battle of Ice City's base city, he led the Gale warriors to fight for many days. They fought their way out of the base city before it fell. That battle was very brave and left a deep impression on people. Similarly, in the next poster, Dragon Slaying Dojo's Xian Rahai was also a 9th grade war god. When the Dragon Slaying Dojo retreated, he was in charge of bringing up the rear. His magnificent feat of killing 19 A-grade mutated beasts in a row was also shocking. Lin Zhen had some impression of the remaining warriors of the dojo, but he couldn't remember who they were. He guessed that they weren't that outstanding. Lin Zhen walked all the way to the poster for the 10th place of the dojo. He saw Jade Sky's poster. Jade Sky only had 1 poster. On it was Lin Zhen's full body portrait. Jade Sky, Lin Zhen will definitely achieve good results. Such a dry sentence made Lin Zhen scratch his head. Couldn't Yang Jianying think of a better phrase? For example, defeating the Russians that day. But when he remembered that the Russians he defeated were also recruited by Jade Sky, Lin Zhen could understand Yang Jianying's difficulties. Looking around, there were thousands of war gods from Ice City participating. Only Jade Sky's team was the poorest. Those from the military and the church were much better than Jade Sky's team. Although Lin Zhen felt that he was younger and more handsome than those war gods, in this lonely corner, he didn't look imposing at all. Lin Zhen walked in front of the poster and noticed that there were many names left below. Lin Zhen, do your best. I have high hopes for you. I hope that Lin Zhen can recreate his glory as a general and obtain a place in the qualifiers for Ice City. Lai Feng doesn't want you. Join that traitor Jade Sky. Lin Zhen, go to hell. What can a beginner war god do? Jade Sky is useless. Lin Zhen is useless. Some people were giving their blessings, some were cursing. Lin Zhen had been like this ever since he started practicing martial arts. He didn't really care about these things. He took a look and prepared to leave. But just as he was about to leave, he suddenly stopped. At the corner of this poster, there was a line of beautiful handwriting. Perform well. I'll wait for you at the end of the world. This line of small words was inconspicuous in the corner. If one didn't look carefully, they wouldn't be able to see it. But one thing was for sure, it definitely wasn't written by a man. Words were like the person. To be able to write this kind of handwriting, she should be a pretty good girl. Lin Zhen looked at it and couldn't imagine who wrote it. From the tone, it seemed to be someone he knew. But looking at the content, Lin Zhen was confused. Waiting for him at the end of the world? Who is it? Where is the end of the world? Maybe it's a female fan with dreams. After all, I'm so handsome. Lin Jun smiled and turned around to leave the dojo area, preparing to go home. At this moment, a little girl walked over timidly. Big brother, do you want to buy an illustrated handbook of the God of War? Many of the experts participating in the God of War arena are on it. Lin Jun lowered his head. This little girl was only 7 or 8 years old. She seemed to be a little poor and wasn't dressed very well. Her big black eyes made Lin Jun think of a deer in the forest. She was holding a stack of books in her hands. The books introduced the participants of the God of War arena this time. He didn't know who had created this book. Now that the internet was widespread, many things could be found online. This kind of book definitely wouldn't sell well. But looking at the little girl, Lin Jun still squatted down. Then I'll buy one. How much is this book? 100 yuan for one. Lin Jun took a book and handed the little girl a 1,000 yuan note. These are all for you. Go home early. The little girl shook her head. No, Weiwei can't take more money from others. 100 yuan is enough. Seeing the little girl's persistence, Lin Jun smiled. He took out a 100 yuan note and handed it to Weiwei. Weiwei is so obedient. You're a good child. Remember to maintain this character. Yes, thank you, big brother. Just now, a very, very beautiful big sister said the same thing to Weiwei. Really? Is she that beautiful? Where is she? Lin Jun asked casually. The big sister left on a flying device. She signed here and bought Weiwei's book. The little girl pointed casually, but Lin Jun was stunned. Because the little girl was pointing at the corner of his publicity poster. Weiwei took the money and skipped away. Lin Jun took a deep breath. Chapter 224. When he got home, Lin Jun heard the sound of boxing. There was a rhythm to the punches, and there was even someone giving instructions loudly. It sounded like a real fight. Lin Jun went to the training hall on the second floor. It was a modified version of a few rooms in the villa. The area was about 200 square meters. His parents were training under the supervision of their own mentors. After 3 months of training, his parents' complexion was obviously much better. Lin Jun occasionally punched, so he should have reached the stage of a third-grade warrior. Lin Jun nodded slightly. Advancing to a level 3 warrior in 3 months was not considered a genius, not even a talent. However, Lin Jun was already satisfied, as long as there was progress. Lin Jun didn't want to disturb his parents, who were in a trance, so he went back to his room. He took out the book he bought from the little girl. It was dozens of pages thick, introducing the powerful war gods of each country. The first page was about the Huaxia region. After opening it, Lin Jun smiled. Because the first person on the first page was his great beauty, Su Mingyue. Su Mingyue was still wearing her iconic white priest robe. Her black hair cascaded down her shoulders, and a golden ribbon was gently tied around her waist, outlining the perfect shape of her waist. Her towering peaks lifted the robe, and her delicate collarbone was exposed at the collar. It made people want to pursue the beautiful scenery below. The background was an endless sea of stars. Her beautiful big eyes were deep, and there was a faint light floating around her body. She was so beautiful that she didn't look like someone from this planet. There was an introduction below, and it was the same familiar sentence. If Su Mingyue didn't exist in this world, who would be worthy of the white robe? Su Mingyue, 20 years old, saintess of the Star God sect, level 5 war god. She is one of the youngest contestants in this competition. After that, there was a long introduction about Su Mingyue. Lin Jun was familiar with all of it. He didn't expect that Su Mingyue had also advanced to the 5th grade war god realm. Furthermore, Lin Jun felt that she wasn't just an early 5th grade war god. She might even be slightly stronger than him. Of course, during the 3 months Lin Jun spent in the 5 Dalian Lake, if he didn't waste so much time in the Yen Mountain Lake, he might have already advanced to the 6th grade war god realm. Even so, it still proved that Gong Sundu's special training was impressive. The Star Sky Church was indeed mysterious. Su Mingyue's strength was very strong. Lin Zhen's tenfold compression had reached the late stage of rank 3 War God. Su Mingyue's 9-stage compression had also reached the middle stage of rank 3. She was not much weaker than Lin Zhen. Even if Yu Feng had advanced to the War God realm, he was only at the peak of rank 2. This meant that Su Mingyue's talent was higher than Yu Feng's. Now that she had advanced to the 5th grade, she should be able to compete in the War God arena. Her chances of passing the preliminaries were very high. However, people still didn't think that she would have any chance in the elimination round. After all, her level was still low. Furthermore, Su Mingyue didn't seem to be very strong. This time, there were many War God experts. Su Mingyue was placed on the first page not only because of her identity, but also because of her appearance. She was the most beautiful, so who else would be put on the first page? It was a very common gimmick during publicity. This was the habitual thinking of humans. Beautiful things were delicate and fragile. Although Su Mingyue had proven many times that she was very capable, no one really treated her as a master. However, Lin Zhen knew that Su Mingyue would definitely advance. He remembered this poster. In his previous life, Su Mingyue had advanced to the top 16 in the War God arena. This was a very good result in China. He could imagine that after the preliminaries, Gong Sundu would continue to give her special treatment. Mingyue's information after the second page, there were a few pages of information about the Beijing headquarters city. However, Lin Zhen didn't have any impression of them. There was only one person that Lin Zhen noticed. He Lu came from the Beijing Lifeng Dojo. He was a 9th grade war god and should be the trump card of the Lifeng Dojo. However, he had never heard of him before. After flipping through the information about the Beijing headquarters, it was the Shanghai headquarters, the Northwest headquarters, the South's Tianfu headquarters, and finally the Ice City headquarters. Among them, Lin Zhen knew about Tang Wenbo from the Shanghai headquarters and Feng Yan'ai from the Northwest Military Academy. Both of them were quite famous in his previous life. Tang Wenbo belonged to the Shanghai Lifeng Dojo and was Jiang Huai's senior. Feng Yan'ai was Li Changjing's senior and was quite famous in the Northwest. In the Ice City, there were Tong Yu, Hu De, Ma Yao, Wei Li, Xian Ru, and Du Long. The others were not on the list. Lin Zhen's name was also not on the list. After the Ice City headquarters, there was no one from the China headquarters. The next page was the American headquarters. There were many American headquarters warriors, but Lin Zhen only knew one of them. One of them was Doak from Los Angeles headquarters city. This person was very famous in his previous life. He was one of the representatives of the American headquarters city. In his previous life, Doak was the runner-up in the War God arena. However, according to the book, other than Doak, there was another warlord called Mario, who was also very strong. He came from Seattle-based city, but Lin Zhen did not remember this person. He was not a god, so it was impossible for him to remember everyone's name from 1,000 years ago. After the American headquarters, there were the European Union headquarters warriors. The first European Union headquarters warrior was Air from Madrid headquarters city. This person's poster was the image of a knight. He was wearing astral armor, a long sword, a helmet, and a shield. However, Lin Zhen knew that this Air was one of the leaders in Hansen's organization. Other than Air, there was a woman from Paris headquarters city. She wore a metal mask on her face, and only her eyes could be seen. However, it was obvious that she was a beauty. She had long golden hair and her skin tone was somewhat oriental. She was a mixed blood. This woman's name was Chris. That was all there was to her introduction. There was no more information. There was also Moroski from Berlin headquarters city. He was a tall white warrior. After that, there were two other famous warriors from India. One was called Omar from New Delhi headquarters city. The other was called Shehan from Mumbai headquarters city. Lin Zhen had some impression of these two people. However, it was not that deep. After all, it had been a long time. It seemed that one of them had entered the top 8. Other than India, there was African Eagle Pogba from Cairo headquarters city. He was also a very powerful level 9 war god. There was also Sanji from Rio de Janeiro headquarters city. He was also one of the top candidates. Other than that, there were many other war gods. Lin Jun could not remember all of them. At the end of the book, there was a Russian warrior from St. Petersburg headquarters city, Holov. He was known as the Northern War God and was very powerful. Other than Holov, there was also Moscow headquarters cities, Kapleningrad headquarters city, Lancelot headquarters cities, Adolf. These 3 Russian warriors were very powerful. They were known as the 3 warriors of Russia. Their strength was second only to Holov. After Holov, Lin Jun immediately recognized him. He was the champion of the God of War arena in his previous life. Even in Bing City, there were many legends about Holov. This was because he was the only level 9 war god who had killed a level S mutated beast alone. He had killed a mutated polar bear. When he brought back the body of the mutated polar bear, the whole St. Petersburg was in an uproar. The news spread and in the end, almost the whole world knew about it. In this life's God of War arena, Holov was still the most popular candidate to win. Although the God of War arena had not started yet, Feng Yu's book showed that there was something different. This was because there was an interview with Holov. Holov said, "My brother Ivan died in China. I do not have a good impression of China's warriors. That's why Chinese warriors must be careful when they meet me in the qualifiers or the knockout rounds. You will feel the cold wind from the far north." Holov did not say who killed his brother, but almost all the martial artists in China, especially those in Bingqing, knew that Ivan was killed by Lin Jun. Other than Holov, Morosky, Lancelot, and Adolf also expressed their dissatisfaction with the Chinese warriors. They also hinted that they would take revenge for Ivan. Lin Jun sneered. He could even imagine that after Holov said this, many Chinese warriors would scold him on the forum. Lin Jun opened his computer. He casually turned on his computer and logged into the forum. As expected, there were all sorts of discussions. Some Bing City warriors expressed that Lin Jun was in the limelight, and all the Chinese warriors were paying for him. Some also expressed that they wanted to stay away from Lin Jun to avoid being implicated by him. Among them, Shintuhua from Gale Martial Arts School even said, "I, Shintuhua, may not be a good person, but I can clearly say that I am stronger than Lin Jun. I am a real villain, and that guy is a hypocrite. I will not say anything else." He took the initiative to join Azure Sky Martial Arts School. That is a martial arts school that recruits Russians. What do the Russians think of him? He hugged the Russians' thighs, but they ignored him. They even took their anger out on us Chinese warriors. This kind of despicable behavior is a disgrace to all Chinese. I, Shintuhua, will not associate with people like Lin Jun. Shintuhua's reputation on the internet was indeed bad, but his words resonated with some warriors. They expressed their dissatisfaction with Lin Jun joining Azure Sky Martial Arts School. "Lin Jun, trash like you will not make it past the 3rd round. Can Lin Jun pass the preliminaries? What a dumb *SS. He will probably be a nobody. Joining Azure Sky Martial Arts School to hug the Russians' thighs? This kind of person should get out of Bing City. Can I say something weakly? Didn't Lin Jun kill a Russian? Why are you saying that he hugged the Russians' thighs? It doesn't make sense. Do you know that people change? Is there a need to ask? That guy is too powerful, so he is afraid and wants to beg for mercy. If not, why would he join Azure Sky Martial Arts School? Does anyone feel that although Shintuhua is a real villain, he is still better than Lin Jun, that hypocrite? Lin Jun closed the website after reading all the posts. It was useless to talk about this kind of thing. The preliminaries were about to begin, and he would use his actions to respond. 3 days passed in the blink of an eye, and it was the day of the preliminaries. What a powerful but and a voluptuous figure. WeChat public. Pretty Girl Meng 22. Chapter 225. Finally, the day of the qualifiers arrived. Every participant had received a virtual reality helmet and had been adjusted by the staff. When the time came, they would be able to enter the virtual world. Therefore, the participants basically stayed at home and waited for the competition to start. The World War God Alliance had already announced that the competition would start at 10 a.m. This War God Arena was the focus of the entire world. Not only were the War God martial artists paying attention, but the soldiers and generals were also paying attention. The Star Realm and Star Realm experts were also paying attention. The governments of various countries were paying attention. The military of various countries were also paying attention. The people of the churches were paying attention to the experts of their churches. They even stopped their Sunday services. Even ordinary people were affected. Schools were closed and factories were on holiday. Everyone was paying attention to the situation of the War God Arena. Although the world of martial artists was extremely far away from them, this battle would affect the ranking of each country in the World War God Alliance. The World War God Alliance's role was to support each other. If a country was attacked by mutated beasts, the other country's World War God Alliance members had the obligation to support them. This ranking had a huge advantage. When a mutated beast attacked a city, the country that was ranked at the top would have priority to use it. Of course, all the war gods registered in the World War God Alliance would be used. For example, if Huaxia and Marika were attacked by mutated beasts at the same time and Huaxia's ranking was higher than Marika's, the ranking advantage would be reflected. Other than the registered war gods of Huaxia and Marika, the other countries' war gods would have priority to be used by Huaxia. Marika could only wait for Huaxia to finish choosing and then choose from the rest. Moreover, the higher the ranking, the more power they had to speak. Moreover, this involved honor. This War God Arena was something that every country had to fight for. If one was ranked at the bottom, then it would be hard. They would be ordered around by others every day and not have a chance to do good things. The participating war gods would be scolded to death by the public. Therefore, the citizens were extremely concerned about the participant. These days, when they had nothing to do, they would stay at home and study the strength of the war gods. Many people even created seated participants and key participants. For example, Lin Zhen's book was created by these people. Huge screens were erected on the streets and alleys of every base city. Although they couldn't broadcast the specific battle situation in the virtual world, there was one thing that could be done. That was the list of the qualified participants and the list of the eliminated participants. According to official statistics, there were over 30,000 war gods participating in this battle. In the end, only 1,024 people could advance, which meant that only 1/30 of the war gods. Fighting was not prohibited in the Heavenly Garden. In fact, fighting was even encouraged. This was not the real world. If you were killed, you would only be eliminated. Every country had this mentality before the start of the competition. Their country's god of war did not need to think about anything else. The first list was naturally the advancement list. Starting from the first place all the way to the 1024th life, every time someone arrived at the garden house and occupied a spot, their name would be displayed here for everyone to look up to. 2. The third list was called the kill list. If you kill someone in the virtual world, then your kill count will increase by 1. Every time someone advanced or got killed, the screen would display and remind everyone who killed who. No one wanted to be the target of the kill. Everyone wanted to kill someone else. Therefore, no one wanted to get on the kill list. In addition, all the gem shards obtained in the Heavenly Garden. If you were killed, then the gem shards would automatically belong to the other party. You couldn't take them out. Only war gods who advanced successfully or those who collected enough gem shards and chose to quit could go outside and exchange for the gem shard. Of course, these gem shards were virtual. The virtual system would automatically record the number of gem shards you obtained. Even if there was no hatred, the gem shards were still a big reason to kill. Recently, there was a topic that was hyped up like crazy. That was the first drop of blood. Who could leave the first drop of blood in the virtual world? There were 7 countries and tens of thousands of war gods. It was certain that countless war gods from any country would be eliminated. However, whoever was the first to be eliminated would lose face. He would be remembered by the whole world and would be mocked by the whole world. Even if he advanced to the star realm in the future, people might still say, "It was this guy who was the first to be eliminated in the war god arena." How could a piece of trash advance to the star realm? Many people even started betting on which country's people would be the first to be eliminated. In this betting, China's odds were the lowest. This was because China had a lot of people. Moreover, their quality was also mixed. It was very easy for them to be eliminated by experts from other countries. Some people even used Lin Zhen as an example. That brat from Ice City is only a level 3 war god. The chances of him being eliminated are very high. Russia's war god of the north, Holov, and the 3 warriors of Russia all said that China's warriors would not be merciful. Holov even said that he wanted to kill a Chinese warrior and get the first drop of blood. This topic was hyped up to the peak. At this time, if there was a ranking of the person who was most likely to be eliminated, then Lin Zhen's chances were definitely the highest. This was because everyone knew that Lin Zhen had killed the Russian warrior, Ivan, and was the target of Russia. Being targeted by a big country, he was naturally the first to be eliminated. Although this possibility was very small compared to so many warriors, many people on the streets and alleys would joke that if a warrior could reach Lin Zhen's level, then he should really bang his head against the wall and commit suicide. Not only did people from China say this, but people from Russia also said this. People from all over the world were saying this. As the topic of the first drop of blood became more and more popular, the World War God Alliance even came up with a temporary policy. Whoever was the first to kill a warrior from another country and get the first drop of blood would be rewarded with a high-grade astral tool. When he came out, he could get it by drawing lots. Of course, this was only limited to the first time. If you were 0.1 seconds away from finishing, you would not be able to get the reward. Everything would be shown on the big screen. Everyone was watching, so there was no way to cheat. Therefore, other than the promotion list, elimination list, and slaughter list, people were also paying attention to the first drop of blood. As the time of the competition approached, all the contestants put on their helmet. Lin Zhen also put on his helmet at home, waiting for the competition to start. Soon, a countdown appeared in front of him. 987. When the countdown reached 1, a white light flashed in front of him, and the scene changed. The surrounding scenery disappeared and was replaced by a colorful world. It was a garden that had been magnified countless times. The sun was high in the sky, and the spring breeze was warm. The air was fresh, and the fragrance of flowers and soil wafted over, making all the contestants feel relaxed and happy. If one looked at the garden from a high altitude, it was circular. The outermost circle was a grassland that was hundreds of kilometers wide. After passing through the grassland, there was a fence. The fence was almost as high as the sky, and there was a layer of yellow light on it. It was impossible to fly or even teleport through it. Only by passing through the gap in the fence below could one enter the garden. After the vast sea of flowers that was dozens of kilometers wide, a moat-like stream surrounded the garden house. Of course, this stream was like a big river to the ant-like martial artist. Moreover, the waves were rolling, and it was not easy to cross it. After crossing the stream, the garden house was the final destination. White light flashed, and all the contestants were randomly teleported to a location at the edge of the garden. The garden was very big. More than 30,000 people were teleported in, and many of them had other people beside them. Because it was random, many people had other people beside them. For example, Lin Zhen. Before Lin Jun could get into the surrounding environment, a figure appeared in front of him. Moreover, it was facing Lin Jun. They appeared at almost the same time. Within 100 meters, there were only the two of them. The martial artist opposite him was tall and had a full beard. He was wearing an astral armor, a necklace around his neck, and a sword in his hand. Lin Jun recognized this person at a glance. He was one of the 3 warriors of Russia, Adolf from the Far East. Adolf also recognized Lin Jun at a glance. Although Lin Jun was not listed in the books, how could Adolf not know who Lin Jun was? Adolf's eyes suddenly lit up. God above, you actually gave me, Adolf, such a good opportunity to become famous. Lin Jun, go to hell. Without any hesitation, the two of them moved at almost the same time and clashed head-on. Lin Jun was Adolf's information. He was born with superhuman strength. Although he was not a spirit reader master, he wore a low-grade spirit defense astral necklace around his neck. A low-grade spirit defense astral necklace was not enough to completely block a late-stage dark gold rank spirit attack, especially when this person was not a spirit reader. His spirit attack was low and Lin Jun countered it. Spirit attack. A spirit attack rushed out and hit Adolf's spirit sea. Although Adolf was protected by an astral weapon, he was still stunned. He instantly had a headache. Lin Jun's figure flashed, and he teleported. He directly appeared behind Adolf and struck with his overlord's spear, backstab. Pooh! Blood splattered and Adolf's neck was penetrated. His body twisted unwillingly, but the system still determined that he was dead, and he turned into light spots and disappeared in the air. On the streets and alleys of the world, the same text flashed across all the big screens. Huaxia Ice City Base City's Azure Sky Dojo War God Lin Jun has killed Russia Far East Base City's Storm Dojo War God Adolf. Russia Far East Base City's Storm Dojo War God. First Blood. The whole world was silent at this moment. Announcement. This site recommends a free novel app. Goodbye to all advertisements. Please follow the official WeChat account to download and install. Chapter 226. On the streets of Bingqing, people stared at the screen with their mouths agape. There was a suffix behind Adolf's name, Hall of the Exalted. The so-called Hall of the Exalted was promoted by various dojos before the competition. It could be found on the internet or in book. Every member of the Hall of the Exalted was popular and was favored to advance to the knockout round. However, such a member of the Hall of the Exalted was killed in seconds. Lin Jun. It was Lin Jun again. Wasn't he on the verge of death? Wasn't he too weak after becoming a warlord? Didn't everyone say that he would be the first to be eliminated? Those Russian martial artists looked so arrogant. Didn't they say that they would teach Lin Jun a lesson? How did everything turn around in an instant? Oh my God, Lin Jun only went in for a second and he killed Adolf, one of the 3 warriors of Russia. That's a member of the Hall of the Exalted. He's going to die. Yeah, what 3 warriors of Russia? What Hall of the Exalted? Didn't that guy know how to dodge? Did he run into Lin Jun's spear like an idiot? Those people were right about one thing. Adolf didn't dodge. He also wanted to kill Lin Jun as soon as possible. The two of them rushed at each other as soon as they saw each other. That was why Lin Jun was able to kill Adolf in a second. Not only in Bingqing, but also in front of the Forbidden City Square in Beijing Bay City, in front of the statues in Southern Bay City, in front of the Pearl Tower in Shanghai Bay City, in front of the border outpost in Northwest Bay City Red Square in Moscow, under the Statue of Liberty in New York, beside the Eiffel Tower in Paris, in front of the temple in India. The whole world stopped breathing at that moment. If this could be maintained for a day, the air quality on Earth would improve a lot. But then, the Earth was in an uproar. People were clamoring and restless. This script was wrong. Weren't the Russian martial artists supposed to kill the Chinese first? How did the tables turn in the blink of an eye? It was the Russian who was killed by the Chinese, and it was one of the Russian 3 warriors who was killed by a newbie they thought was an instant kill. Other countries were fine, but Russia was cursing at the same time. Of course, they weren't cursing Lin Jun, but Adolf from the Far East base city. Adolf angrily took off his helmet and threw it to the ground. What's going on? I'm not hallucinating, am I? How could I be insta-killed by Lin Jun? I'm one of the 3 warriors of Russia. I'm a member of the Hall of Fame, and I'm said to have a chance to enter the top 16. Adolf lowered his head in pain. His ambition at the start of the competition had now flown out the window. He felt that his life had turned gray. Crack! Crash! The glass in Adolf's house was broken. Curses could be heard from outside. Adolf didn't even have the courage to go out and see who it was. He could only curl up in the corner of his house to avoid the flying rock. If I knew this would happen, I wouldn't have provoked Lin Jun. This was Adolf's only thought at the moment. After Lin Jun's insta-kill, the big screen on the street started to flicker. The second person to be killed was finally from China. Moreover, the plot had changed again. The person who was killed was Shintuhua, and the person who eliminated him was Holofh. After Holofh entered the heavenly garden, he immediately saw a Chinese war god not far away. He didn't hesitate to pounce on him. When Shintuhua came in and saw Holofh, he immediately cursed his bad luck. He didn't have the courage to fight against Holofh. When Holofh pounced on him, he even used a lazy donkey roll and actually dodged Holoph's attack. Holofh also didn't expect a war god to use such a move. It was because of this delay that he missed the first attack. When he used the second attack to kill Shintuhua, the first place had already been decided. Every contestant could also see the data in the virtual system. The rankings were all on a small screen and could be searched. Seeing that Lin Jun had obtained the first drop of blood, even Holofh, who had completed the second kill, felt his face burning. He had bragged a bit too much. Lin Jun could actually kill Adolf in a second. He had indeed underestimated him. Of course, Holofh didn't think that Lin Jun's true strength was that strong. It must have been that idiot Adolf who short-circuited somewhere and let Lin Jun take advantage of him. After Holofh finished his kill, the following kills started to appear one after another. Los Angeles Heaven Dojo War God Doke killed Brazil War God XXX. China Beijing God's Grace Church, Su Minghui killed India War God XXX. Paris Bay City, Sacred Martial Arts Schools Chris killed America's God of War XXX. India's New Delhi War God Omar killed China's War God XX. Europe's Holy Martial Arts Schools Chris from Paris Bay City killed India's God of War XXX. Double kill. The screen seemed to be crazily scrolling. Countless names appeared layer by layer. The number of people on the kill list instantly increased, and the 30,000 people who entered also rapidly decreased. After a minute, the 30,000 people had decreased to 25,000. In just a minute, more than 5,000 war gods had been eliminated. This was also caused by the fact that everyone was gathered together at the beginning. After a minute, almost no one was in the same place, and the number of kills began to slow down. However, from time to time, there would still be flashes of someone being killed by someone. Among them, the one who killed the most was Europe Paris Sacred Dojo Chris. So far, she had killed 4 people. There were also hundreds of people who killed 3 or 2 people. Lin Jun's name was now nowhere in the rankings, but it was firmly remembered by everyone. After killing Adolf, Lin Jun was not in a hurry to move forward. Adolf was killed by him just now. He underestimated the enemy, but he didn't expect Lin Jun's mental power to reach the late stage of dark gold. He could even break through the defense of a low-grade astral tool. Lin Jun did not intend to fight for a position that was too close to the front. Being ranked first or 1024 was the same to him. Moreover, if he was too close to the front, he might encounter those experts, which would be even more dangerous. Lin Jun first stopped at the edge of the grass and looked at the rules of the virtual world. When war gods entered the virtual world, there were 4 ways to leave the virtual world. The first way was to take the initiative to quit. As long as you wanted to leave, you could use your mind to leave. This kind of leaving was equivalent to giving up, but you could keep the gem fragments you collected. The second way was to reach the garden house and leave your name on it. The system would treat it as you completing the test and take the initiative to quit the virtual world. The gem fragments would also be kept. The third way was simple. Quit after death. If you were killed by others or by insects or flowers in the garden, the gem fragments would automatically drop. The last way was to quit when the time was up and the fragments would be kept. This heavenly garden wasn't for you to stay indefinitely. There were 4 seasons: spring, summer, autumn, and winter. Each season only had one day. The first day was spring, and the 4th day was winter. When winter was about to end, the garden's time would be up. At that time, everyone would quit and the qualifiers would end. After looking at the rules, Lin Jun looked at the leaderboard. There were more than 24,000 people left in the garden. After the initial massacre, everyone started to move forward quickly, wanting to pass through the grass as soon as possible. However, Lin Jun wasn't in a hurry to leave. If everyone rushed to the front, a battle would be unavoidable. He was a spirit reader, so he could fly and teleport. His speed was definitely not slow. During this time, it would be good for him to collect some gem fragments at the back. He even rested at the edge of the grass for almost an hour. Then, he stood up and stepped on a cloud to rise into the sky. Seeing that there was no one around, he slowly moved towards the sea of flowers. At this time, the leaderboard outside had changed a lot. Of course, the advancement leaderboard was still empty. However, the massacre leaderboard was constantly changing. The first place, Chris, had already killed 9 people. The second place, Doak, had killed 8 people. The third place, Al, had killed 7 people. Then, there was a long list of people tied up. Most of the people who occupied the massacre leaderboard were Hall of Famers who had been heavily promoted before the competition. These people were the stars of the God of War. These people were moving forward quickly, hoping to reach the Sea of Flowers before the end of the first day and seize a spot in the advancement leaderboard. Lin Jun didn't know the change in the situation at all. Even if he knew, he wouldn't care. He took the liquid metal from his waist. Seeing that there was no one around, he started his plan. What he needed to do was to remove the weed. Most of the gem fragments were hidden in the flowers and plant. These flowers and plants were too tall, so it was impossible to find them without looking carefully. Lin Jun didn't have the time to look through them one by one. He already had an idea. After rising into the sky, the liquid metal turned into a windmill with 3 leaves. Each leaf had a sharp edge. It was a huge curved blade that was 10 meters long. The 3 tails connected together to form a large windmill. Now that he had late-stage dark gold mental strength, it wasn't difficult for him to drive the liquid metal. After rising into the sky, the windmill formed. With a move of his mental force, the windmill started to rotate. Whoosh 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 whoosh. Lin Jun removed large patches of grass. As he removed the weeds, he used gravity to throw the flying weeds behind him. This ensured that he could keep his eyes on the ground. The 10-meter-long blade was extremely efficient in removing weed. It stuck close to the ground and moved forward. Whether it was grass, trees, or rocks, they were all defenseless in front of the liquid metal that was as strong as a high-grade astral tool. Chapter 227. Every time he saw a flash of red light, Lin Jun would immediately wave his hand, and the ruby shards would be sucked over by gravity. 09 Small said net. Another hour passed like this, and he actually obtained 25 ruby shards, and even 1 sapphire shard. After every martial artist obtained a gem shard, there would be a faint glow on their body, which meant that they had a gem shard on them. This was done intentionally by the War God Alliance to encourage martial artists to fight inside. After Lin Jun obtained these gem shards, there was a layer of red and blue light flashing on his body. However, Lin Jun didn't care, since there wasn't anyone behind him to see. Ha! This is so satisfying. Lin Zhen was in the mood for treasure hunting. Although the ancient god ruins were gradually being explored, the number of astral tools was increasing, and their prices were plummeting. The days when a low-grade astral tool could be sold for billions were gone forever, but the price wasn't too low either. These ruby shards were sold for 10 million each, but if 10 of them were exchanged for a low-grade astral tool, it would still be worth a few hundred million. Mid-grade astral tools were even more expensive, and the worst of them was at least 1 billion. Among them, defensive astral tools were worth 2 to 3 billion, and support-type astral tools were worth 6 to 7 billion. There were even some that were worth more than 10 billion. High-grade astral tools were worth at least 10 billion, and that was the worst among them. Tens of billions weren't rare at all. Top-grade astral tools were almost priceless. Even the worst of them might not be worth more than 100 billion. I've already obtained 2 low-grade astral tools, so I've obtained at least 4 to 500 million. However, there aren't many sapphire shards in this grassland area. Lin Zhen's windmill blade once again swept the surrounding 100 meters, and he finally obtained another sapphire shard. Let's sweep for another 3 hours. It will be afternoon by then, and I'll head to the Sea of Flowers area. I should be able to leave the grassland before spring. Occasionally, a mutated insect would appear, but it couldn't stop Lin Zhen at all. His 10 layers compressed Dantian Qi wasn't just for show. Unless it was an S-grade mutated insect, he couldn't defeat it. A-grade mutated insects were no longer a threat to him. 09 Small said net. What Lin Zhen didn't know was that many people outside were already very dissatisfied with him because he was searching for gemstone fragments at the back of the team. The preliminaries had been going on for more than 2 hours. It was already noon, but the spectators hadn't left yet. They were all paying attention to the rankings. The current situation was very unfavorable for China. Other than Lin Zhen getting the first drop of blood at the beginning and making China famous, China didn't show any advantage in the following battles. Of course, there wouldn't be any changes to the advancement list for the time being. No one could reach the garden house on the first day, and there might not even be many on the second day. Right now, everyone was paying attention to the slaughter list. At present, Crazy, who was ranked first, had already killed 25 people, far ahead of everyone else. Holliff gradually displayed his ability, and was ranked second on the leaderboard after killing 18 people. After that, there was a long list of foreign names, such as Doak, Ayer, Pogba, Shehan, Lancelot, Sanji and so on. It wasn't until the 22nd place that a Huaxian name appeared. Wu Fengni of China's Northwest Army killed 11 people. Moreover, this ranking wasn't monopolized by him alone. There were more than a dozen people who killed 11 people. Then there were China's Tang Wenba, Dolong, Xian Rahai and the others who had killed 10 people. As for Bing City's Tong Yuehu, he had killed less than 10 people. For example, Ma Yao and Wei Li hadn't killed more than 5 people, and their rankings were tied at the same place. However, no one was criticizing these people. Most people were criticizing Lin Zhen. This was because ever since Lin Zhen got the first drop of blood, his kill count hadn't changed at all. It was like an old bull that was nestled there. There was no change at all. Because of the large number of participants, other than those who could see the top of the leaderboard, the rest of the people could only search for them. Lin Zhen had become famous because he got the first drop of blood. Currently, he was ranked first in terms of search results, even surpassing Su Mingyue. Su Mingyue had countless fans all over the world because of her identity and appearance. She had always been synonymous with high popularity. Especially recently, when Su Mingyue was on the cover of the God of War arena, she had captured the hearts of countless men. It was natural that she was highly searched for. After Su Mingyue killed one person at the beginning of the game, she didn't kill a second person. However, everyone could understand that. The Star God sect didn't encourage killing, especially the kind-hearted Su Mingyue, even if it was a virtual killing. At the beginning, when someone attacked her, she had to fight back and kill one person. After that, she would definitely avoid the others as much as possible. She didn't want to hurt others. However, Lin Zhen was different. He was just a god of war from a small dojo. After entering, he even killed a Hall of Famer. His strength shouldn't be bad. But why is it that your kill count is still 1? This disappointed many Huaxia martial artists who had high hopes for Lin Zhen. It also gave a lot of people who hated Lin Zhen a chance. This time, there was a forum for the God of War arena. People from all over the world could log in and check the performance of a certain God of War and post posts. Posts rose one after another. Among them, nearly 1/10 of the posts were related to Lin Zhen. Haha, where's the first drop of blood from Huaxia? What's his ranking now? Look, this is the standard of Huaxia. It was just an accident that Lin Zhen killed a Hall of Famer. Time will prove everything. Goddess Chris is mighty. She's fighting for our European Union martial artists. There's no doubt that Lin Zhen is hiding. He's afraid of revenge from Russia. In your Huaxia language, he's a scoundrel. I just searched for Lin Zhen's name again. His ranking finally changed. However, it dropped. He's currently ranked around 18,000. Ha! The Huaxia people were still trying their best to fight back. However, Lin Zhen's kill count remained unchanged. This made their counterattacks pale and powerless. Fortunately, some other Huaxia people, such as Tang Wenba, Feng Ni, and Dolong, were still steadily advancing in their rankings. This gave them some comfort. However, this couldn't stop people from being disappointed in Lin Zhen. After getting the first drop of blood, he should at least make a move. It was easy for people to think that he was hiding. In an instant, people from all over the world who were jealous of Lin Zhen's first drop of blood swarmed out. They instantly formed a huge group of people who hated him. Although Lin Zhen was somewhat disappointing, the Huaxia people were still trying their best to protect him. After all, he was from their own country. People didn't expect him to get many kills. At least make a move to prove that he wasn't hiding. The war of words on the internet was overwhelming. However, it didn't affect the war gods in the virtual world. The virtual world gradually became cloudy. It seemed like it was going to rain. The time gradually approached the afternoon and the sky became dark. If this rain continued, it might last for an entire night. It would probably be summer by the time the rain stopped. Lin Zhen continued to move forward as he swept the area. He only stopped this time around in the afternoon. 75 ruby shards and 12 sapphire shards were his reward for the hard work he had put in this time. It's about time. I should also move forward. If I set off now, I should be able to reach the Sea of Flowers before evening. Lin Zhen recalled the liquid metal. He stepped on the cloud and accelerated towards the Sea of Flowers. Although he couldn't fly at high altitudes, Lin Zhen, who wasn't afraid of mutated insects, still flew at an extremely high speed at low altitude. He gradually approached the fence. There were quite a few martial artists gathered near the fences. Although many war gods entered the virtual world, not all of them had leveling up as their goal. After arriving here and witnessing the strength of the experts from all over the world, many people began to think of retreating. At their level, it was definitely impossible for them to obtain a spot to level up. However, they were unwilling to leave now. There was a chance to obtain astral tools here. Even if they died, they would only be eliminated. It was equivalent to an ancient god ruin without any danger. Since that was the case, why not make a fortune here before leaving? There was a war god from the United States, who was also a Hall of Famer. His name was Mario and he came from Seattle Bay City. This person's brain was relatively flexible. He carefully analyzed the possibility of leveling up and felt that even if he delayed for some time, he could still obtain a spot to level up. Since that was the case, he decided to stay and rob people. There were many people who had similar ideas. However, these people were basically not strong enough. When they encountered a Hall of Famer like Mario, they couldn't fight back at all. Mario didn't kill too many people. Those who didn't have any treasure light on their bodies were people who didn't have any harvest. Killing such people wouldn't be of much use. Therefore, he gathered these people together and formed a group of bandits. Whenever someone with treasure light appeared, they would go forward to intercept and kill them. Most of the gem fragments obtained were taken by Mario. The others could more or less get some. Those who didn't have treasure light would be absorbed by them. This gang grew stronger and stronger. By dusk, the gang had reached 30 people. Mario's body flashed with rich red and blue treasure light, making people envious. However, none of the war gods around him dared to have any ideas about Mario. A Hall of Famer had already proven his strength. A war god from India went to Mario's side in a flattering manner. "Boss, when are we going to the Sea of Flowers? We've already been here for a few hours." "No hurry. We'll go when it's really dark. It's not convenient for everyone to travel when it's dark. It's safer for us to move then. What if we find a fat sheep now?" A black war god from the African alliance side. "I'm afraid it'll be difficult. Most people have already passed the fence. The remaining people are just shrimps. There's no fat sheep." Chapter 228. Seeing this figure, almost all the robbers stood up. "Fat sheep. He's definitely a fat sheep. God, how many shards does this guy have? That treasure light is almost dripping down. He's almost catching up to Boss. Boss, I estimate that this person has at least 100 shards. This time we've all gained something, right?" Most of the time, even if there were a few shards, it would be taken by Mario alone. Even so, Mario's shards weren't much better than the people who came before him. Mario's eyes were also shining. It seemed that Robber Dow's choice was correct. As long as he got rid of this guy, he could go to the garden house to level up in peace. "Everyone, get ready. Everyone will get a share of the loot after killing this person. However, don't act rashly. If you scare him away, no one will get anything." The 30 robbers all stood up and began to spread out to hide, preparing to surround the fat sheep that was about to arrive. Among these robbers, there weren't only Americans, Indians, and Africans. There were also people from various countries. There were even 4 or 5 Chinese. Among these Chinese, one of them came from Ice City's dragon-slaying dojo. His name was Laming. When Laming first graduated and entered dragon-slaying dojo, he was still a first-class student. This made him think that his future was limitless. However, on the day of graduation, he fought with Lin Jun and the other Gale students in Millennium. This cleared Laming's mind and made him realize that there was always someone better out there. In the following days, Laming couldn't recover from the setback. Although the effects of the gene medicine weren't bad, he was completely suppressed by Lin Jun's limelight. Lin Jun was like his nightmare. He always felt that Lin Jun was going against him at every turn. Later, Zhang Huai and the others from Dragon Slaying Dojo were killed by Lin Jun in Zhaodong. Dragon Slaying Dojo also gradually began to decline. Laming's days weren't easy either. Although he finally advanced to War God, he didn't even compress his first-tier energy. This time, he had given gifts and begged for help. Finally, he had obtained the qualifications to enter the War God arena. His goal was to obtain some gemstone fragments inside to fill his somewhat tight wallet. However, he had always been paying attention to Lin Jun. He had watched this person soar to the top. Not only did he successfully become a warlord, but he also had so much money. He was even able to donate 30 billion to the capital base city. This was a number that he would never be able to reach in his lifetime. There was even news that Lin Jun's girlfriend was Su Mingyue. This made Lei Ming, who was one of the hundreds of millions of fans who had a crush on Su Mingyue, extremely jealous. Why could Lin Jun become a winner in life? Did he, Lei Ming, have to live such a miserable life? He refused to accept this. If there was a chance, he would definitely teach Lin Jun a harsh lesson. Today, in the qualifiers, Lin Jun had obtained first blood, which made him even more jealous. He originally thought that he would never be able to see Lin Jun's taillights again in his lifetime. However, now that he saw Lin Jun flying over, Lei Ming finally felt that his chance had come. If he could eliminate Lin Jun, that would be something that would give him a great sense of accomplishment. Lei Ming held his breath and quietly came to Mario's side. "Boss, I know this person. He's from our base city." Mario glanced at Lei Ming, nodded, and didn't say anything. When Lin Jun neared the fence, he slowed down. Although the sky was gradually darkening, Lin Jun's eyesight wasn't normal. He could faintly see a bit of light hidden in the grass. That was the glow of a gemstone. The glow of a gemstone fragment. If there was a gemstone glow, it meant that there were people hiding there. It went without saying what they were hiding there for. With a rough glance, there were quite a few people hiding there. There were about 30 of them. So many war gods weren't easy to deal with. Lin Jun was a bit hesitant. He wondered if he should change his route. The fence didn't allow him to enter the sea of flowers from anywhere. It was like a fence in the real world. Some places were so dense that even dogs couldn't pass through. Some places were so sparse that even pigs could squeeze through. The fence here was covered by a layer of light. If he wanted to pass through, he could only choose a few entrances. Normally, the distance between each entrance was about a dozen kilometers. Lin Jun didn't want to take a long detour. Just as Lin Jun hesitated and stopped, Mario was a bit anxious. "What's going on? Could it be that this brat discovered us?" The person beside him said in a low voice. "It shouldn't be. It's almost dark now. His vision isn't good. Also, we're hiding in the tall grass. Could it be that he has night vision? Then why do you think he stopped?" Mario was dissatisfied. "I think he's being cautious. He has so many gemstone shards on him. He should be more cautious. He might be observing the situation. Who knows? I feel that this brat wants to take a detour. There are people doing the same thing as us in other places. If he leaves, then wouldn't others benefit from it?" Mario was anxious. "Should we kill our way out?" Someone asked. "Kill your head. Can't you see that he is a psychic? His running speed is top-notch. We can't catch up." Just when Mario was at his wits' end, Lei Ming said, "Boss, why don't I go out and try to trick him to come over?" Mario looked at Lei Ming and asked, "Can you do it?" "Don't worry. I know him. This brat also has weaknesses. I believe in my instincts." Lei Ming was eager to show off and boasted. "Okay. You go and try. If you succeed, I will give you 20% of the gemstone shards." "Thank you, boss." Lei Ming was excited. Lin Jun might have close to 100 gemstone shards on him. If he could get 20% of the shards, then it would be a few 100 million worth of wealth. He could then leave the virtual world and return to Bing City to enjoy his life. Not every martial artist was as rich as Lin Jun. For someone like Lei Ming, not to mention a few 100 million, even tens of millions, was not a small number. A few 100 million was enough to last a lifetime if one was frugal. Lei Ming walked out confidently and ran towards Lin Jun's direction. Lin Jun was observing from the sky. When he saw a person coming out, he thought it was a daring robber. But when he took a closer look, he realized it was an old acquaintance from Bing City. "Lin Jun, are you Lin Jun?" Lei Ming ran over anxiously. "Lei Ming, long time no see. Why are you here?" Lin Jun asked. "Lin Jun, be careful. There are 2 foreign warlords lying in ambush in front. You must not go over. It was not easy for me to run over from there." 2 foreign warlords? Lin Jun squinted his eyes and looked at Lei Ming. "Yes, 2 foreign warlords. One is level 3 and the other is level 4. They have already stolen a lot of gemstone shards. I am not their match, so I had to endure the humiliation and deal with them. But when they saw you coming, they prepared to attack. I don't want to see you get hurt, so I ran out to tell you when they weren't paying attention. You should also run quickly, otherwise it will be too late." Lin Jun nodded, Since it is like this, I should take revenge for you. But can you do it? There are two of them. Lei Ming first set up a trap for Lin Jun to let Lin Jun feel that he had a chance to win. Then he used words to provoke Lin Jun. Lin Jun laughed. What do you think? Light flashed in his eyes, and he secretly sent out the soul lock. A late-stage dark gold spirit reader used spirit lock on a person who wasn't even a spirit reader, and a beginner warlord who didn't even compress his dantian was easier than breathing. Lei Ming was hit in a second. Lei Ming quietly approached Lin Jun and revealed all the information he knew about him. After listening to Lei Ming's narration, Lin Jun had some confidence in his heart. There was only one person from the Hall of the Exalted, and the rest were all trash. This meant that there was still a chance to fight. At the very least, there was no problem in escaping. Okay, bring me there. Lin Jun patted Lei Ming's shoulder and walked towards the fence. Seeing that Lei Ming had really succeeded, Mario's eyes lit up. Great! That Chinese kid fell for it, ha ha ha! Everyone, get ready. After this, we can leave this place. Lin Jun walked to the left, just in front of him. There were 4 warlords lying in ambush here. They were all beginner warlords, and basically didn't compress their dantian. Walking behind Lei Ming, when they were about to approach, Lin Jun made his move. He dashed towards the bushes like a leopard and stabbed out with his spear like lightning. There were 2 warlords lying in ambush here. They originally wanted to guarantee Lin Jun's escape route, but they didn't expect that Lin Jun had already discovered them and suddenly attacked. After a stab, the 2 warlords who weren't prepared were stabbed together. Hit him. Within 0.1 seconds, Lin Jun stabbed again. Another warlord was killed on the spot. The remaining warlord screamed and wanted to run, but he was blocked by Lei Ming outside. Lei Ming was still in a state of spirit lock by Lin Jun, so he naturally helped Lin Jun. Lin Jun took a step forward and pierced his back with a spear. The 4th one. Lei Ming was so happy that he wanted to show off his achievement to Lin Jun. Lin Jun's gaze focused, and a mental attack hit his mind. Lin Jun didn't have the slightest bit of pity for such a scheming person. The huge difference in strength didn't turn Lei Ming into an idiot, but he directly died. The 5 of them were all killed within a second. More than a dozen gemstone fragments floated up, and Lin Jun raised his hand and collected them all. These were his spoils of war. At this time, the outside world was in an uproar. Those who were angrily attacking Lin Jun on the internet, those who were disappointed in Lin Jun, and those who scolded Lin Jun for being a coward, all saw the words scrolling on the big screen. Warlord Lin Jun from Azure Sky Dojo of Huaxia Bingqing Bay City killed Indian Warlord XXX from Mumbai. Warlord Lin Jun from Azure Sky Dojo of Huaxia Bingqing Bay City killed non-league Warlord XXX from Cairo. Warlord Lin Jun from Azure Sky Dojo of Huaxia Bingqing Bay City achieved a double kill. Congratulations! Killing 2 people in 1 second was called a double kill. People didn't have time to react, and the screen continued to scroll. Warlord Lin Jun from Azure Sky Dojo of Huaxia Bingqing Bay City killed European Warlord XXX from Berlin, achieved a triple kill. Warlord Lin Jun from Azure Sky Dojo of Huaxia Bingqing Bay City killed Russian Warlord XXX. Warlord Lin Jun from Azure Sky Dojo of Huaxia Bingqing Bay City killed Lei Ming from Dragon Slaying Dojo of Huaxia Bingqing Bay City, achieved a quintuple kill. Chapter 229. Many people in the outside world were still criticizing each other, but the number of people defending Lin Jun was getting lesser and lesser. The glory of being a one-kill hero had dissipated, and the number of kills that had remained stagnant for a long time made people speechless. On the other hand, Lin He had formed an overwhelming number of haters. Anyway, they were not from their own country, and they were jealous of him for getting the first kill. Now that he had disappeared, who else could they criticize but him? Just when few people in China were speaking up for Lin Jun, the situation changed. Lin Jun double kill. Lin Jun triple kill. Lin Jun quintuple kill. The screen that had been relatively quiet suddenly had so many messages, and it made the Chinese spectators explode. Lin Zhen, you finally came out. Awesome. Ho ho. Too cool. Quintuple kill. The first quintuple kill was completed within a second. Did Lin Zhen arrange his opponents in a row? Don't come out and show off your shameful IQ. Why did you arrange them in a row? Can't the martial artists exit the virtual world if they can't win? Will they still be under your control? The foreign martial artists were dumbfounded. This Lin Zhen did not make any moves for the whole day, and when the sky turned dark, he suddenly exploded and killed 5 people in a row. This was a slap to the faces of those Lin He. But Lin He were not to be trifled with. They immediately found a flaw in Lin Zhen's quintuple kill. The last person that Lin Zhen killed was actually from Bing City. Although martial artists from the same country were constantly fighting with each other, and since the start of the qualifiers, many people from the same country had been eliminated. But Lin Zhen's actions made people suspicious. Could it be that this guy deliberately colluded with others to perform for this quintuple kill? In the end, he could not find anyone and could only use his own country's partners to make up the numbers. It must be like this. Otherwise, it would not be so coincidental. So Lin He exploded again. Look, that Lin Zhen actually sacrificed his partners to achieve the quintuple kill. Brother from the EU, this is the truth. This plan is really too clumsy. Everyone can see through it at a glance. Lin Zhen is probably anxious. In order to become famous, he doesn't care about anything else. What a cheap trick. Vain Huaxia people, I despise you. How can there be such a coincidence in the world? Lin Zhen, do you really think the whole world is a fool? I'm from Tianfu Bay City, but I also look down on you. That's right. On behalf of the Southern Bay City, I despise your actions. You're embarrassing yourself. You might as well be a coward. Good luck, Lin Zhen. The martial artists of the capital Bay City support you. You have to continue killing a few of them and shut those foreigners up completely. Don't be naive, Huaxia's martial artists. Lin Zhen probably can't kill anyone now because there aren't that many people willing to cooperate with him. Didn't you see that his companions were all killed? While these people were scolding him, another line of words suddenly appeared on the big screen. Lin Zhen, the god of war from Azure Sky Martial Arts Club of Bingqing Bay City, China, killed XXX, the god of war from Moscow, Russia, killing like a madman. Lin Zhen, the god of war from Azure Sky Martial Arts Club of Bingqing Bay City, China, killed XXX, the god of war from Leningrad, Russia, killing like a monster. Lin Zhen, the god of war from Azure Sky Martial Arts Club of Bingqing Bay City, China, killed XXX, the god of war from New Delhi, India, killing like a demon. Lin Zhen, the god of war from Azure Sky Martial Arts Club of Bingqing Bay City, China, killed XXX, the god of war from Rio de Janeiro, Brazil, killing like a madman. Lin Zhen, the god of war from Azure Sky Martial Arts Club of Bingqing Bay City, China, killed XXX, the god of war from Miami, America, killing like a god. Lin Zhen's series of scrolling messages made the world speechless again. In the virtual world, Lin Zhen had completely exploded. After killing 5 people in a row, Mario and the others finally realized that they had been tricked by Lin Zhen. This guy had seen through their ambush long ago. Not only did he not run away, but he also came over and took them by surprise. They lost 5 people in an instant. However, Mario wasn't worried. There were still 25 people here. The ones who died weren't the main force. Not to mention, Lin Zhen had obtained more gemstone fragments. If more people died, he would be able to kill Lin Zhen in the end. Then, wouldn't he be able to obtain even more gemstone fragments? Therefore, Mario did not appear immediately. Instead, he gave the order, "Go. All of you, go and kill Lin Zhen." When the surrounding gods of war saw the rich treasure light on Lin Zhen's body, they could no longer hold back. When they heard Mario's order, they could not wait any longer and immediately rushed out like a swarm of bees. Lin Jun sneered with the Overlord's spear in his hand. It was just as Thunder had said. There were no other experts here except for one Hall of the Exalted member. That was just right. Everyone here had more or less gem fragments on them. It was a good harvest for him. Lin Jun stomped on the ground and rushed forward like a cannonball. The Overlord's spear in his hand turned into a straight line. His body arched in the air, and he stabbed with the spear. 5 gods of war came toward him. 3 of them spread out like a fan, and 2 of them followed behind the person in the middle. Lin Jun did not care about the 2 people on his left and right. Instead, he suddenly sped up and shook off their siege. He attacked 3 people with all his strength. The difference between Dantian Qi that was 10 times compressed and Dantian Qi that was not compressed was like the difference between heaven and earth. Lin Jun stabbed with his spear. The first person's shield was pierced through. His body was like a piece of paper. The spear pierced through the second person's body. The second person was caught off guard and was also stabbed to death. The Overlord's spear was 3 meters long. It was enough to continue to be powerful. Lin Jun's arm exerted force and the third person was also pierced by the spear. 3 people with 1 spear. Lin Jun patted the spear's end. The spear pierced through 3 people's bodies. He rushed behind them and pulled out the spear. All of you die. The spear shook again and a torrential rain of spear light appeared. The 4 gods of war were riddled with holes. 2 of them died on the spot, and the other 2 twitched on the verge of death. Several people surrounded him from other directions. Lin Jun teleported to the back of the crowd and shot with his spear. Hit, hit, hit. Pu piu piu. Their heads exploded like watermelons. Another 3 gods of war fell to the ground. Only now did the people in front realize that Lin Jun was at the back. Just as they turned their heads to look back, Lin Jun suddenly returned to the front and stabbed with his spear again. Another 3 people's throats were pierced. Blood splattered everywhere. Their bodies turned into streams of light and disappeared. Only the gemstone fragments fell out and landed in Lin Jun's hand. Ah! You clowns actually dared to rob and kill me. Then, all of you will stay here today. Don't even think about running away. Lin Jun began a terrifying massacre. His body appeared anywhere in the grass. Every time he appeared, there would be a god of war lying in a pool of blood. Gemstone fragments constantly floated towards him. They couldn't even keep up with his teleportation speed. A total of 24 gods of war surrounded Lin Jun. Within a minute, 20 of them had fallen. The remaining 4 gods of war were smart. Seeing that they couldn't win, they fled in 4 different directions. Lin Jun arrived at the east side. After finishing off one with his spear, he immediately teleported to the west side and finished off another one. At this time, the gods of war in the north and south had already run far away. Lin Jun suddenly threw out the Overlord's spear in his hand. It directly pierced through the god of war in the south. The spear carried his body and slammed into the fence wall. He died on the spot. The god of war in the north thought that he had escaped. Lin Jun suddenly opened his hand. A ray of golden light with the support of lightning particles instantly streaked across several hundred meters and hit the back of his head. The golden light pierced through his forehead and disappeared into the dark grass. Only his corpse was still running a few steps due to inertia. In the end, he fell on the grass. Only a few gemstone fragments floated up. Lin Jun raised his hand and collected the gemstone fragments. With another wave of his hand, gravity pulled the Overlord's spear back. He then looked at the darkness in the grass. How long are you planning to hide? Hall of Famer. At this time, the people outside were already scared silly by Lin Jun's crazy performance. One had to know that just 2 minutes ago, Lin Jun's ranking on the Carnage leaderboard was still around 20,000. Now, he had actually jumped to first place. He was now on the same level as the god of war Chris from the Paris Bay City's sacred dojo in the European Union. They had both completed 30 kills and were tied for first place. And all of this was done within 2 minutes. Previously, he had a kill count of 29 people in 2 minutes. Everyone who said that Lin Zhen was looking for people to put on a show were speechless. This was not something that could be put on a show. There were people from all over the world and every Bay City who would cooperate with a Huaxia martial artist to put on a show, unless the entire world had gone crazy. The number of people supporting Lin Zhen suddenly soared. There were all kinds of celebrations and flaunting. In an instant, Lin He was suppressed to the point that he couldn't raise his head. In their eyes, Lin Zhen's performance was now flawless. Who could kill 29 people in a row? Lin He's supporters were suppressed for a while before one person found a black spot. Did anyone notice that Lin Zhen only killed some nobodies? Other than Adolf, whom he probably killed in a sneak attack at the beginning, there was no one who was a real expert. This sentence immediately received countless responses from Lin Zhen. Many people began to confirm that the people Lin Zhen killed were incompetent. After all, the participating gods of war knew a lot of people. The examples given by these people were all true. For example, Bingqing Shintuhua jumped out to give an example. I, Shintuhua, am the second person to be eliminated. I have embarrassed China. But I still have to say that the people Lin Zhen killed were all rookies. For example, Lei Ming's skill level was similar to mine. We were both trash who didn't even compress first stage Dantian Qi. We were just there to be bystanders. What's there to be proud of for Lin Zhen to kill such trash? He is just a noob expert. Although Shintuhua was notorious in China, the foreigners immediately found a reason to support him. Countless people responded. Lin Zhen's reputation as a noob expert started to spread. Just when they were about to make a big fuss about this, words started to scroll on the big screen. Chapter 230. Lin He, who was overseas, wanted to cry. Did this Lin Zhen come here just to slap their faces? Those who slandered Huaxia might be the first to be eliminated. Lin Zhen killed one of the 3 Russian warriors, Adolf, and took the first blood, successfully slapping the Russians' face for their humiliation before the competition. They had once again mocked Lin Zhen for hiding like a tortoise, but Lin Zhen had unleashed a huge explosion. He had actually killed like a god, and in one fell swoop, he had tied with Crazy and successfully reached the top of the Carnage leaderboard. After being scolded by Lin Zhen for a while, Lin He finally found something to criticize, which was that Lin Zhen only knew how to bully noobs. In the end, he received another slap. This time, the one he bullied was definitely not a noob. Mario, who came from Seattle, was very famous. He was a 9th grade war god and a spirit reader master. After killing this person, Lin Zhen even left Crazy in the dust and occupied the top spot of the killing list. More importantly, Mario had 3 mid-grade astral tools on him. They were a mid-grade spirit-type defensive astral tool, a mid-grade astral tool armor, and a mid-grade astral tool long blade. With these 3 astral tools in hand, Mario was almost invincible. However, he was still killed by Lin Zhen. The second Hall of Famer. This was the second Hall of Famer that Lin Zhen, a nobody, had killed after entering the virtual map. This time, the ones who were slapped in the face were the people of America. Therefore, this self-proclaimed world's #1 country firmly remembered Lin Zhen, remembered this Huaxia brat. Lin Zhen was only 20 years old and was one of the youngest contestants in the competition. This time, there were only 3 participants under the age of 20. One of them was Lin Zhen, the other was Su Mingyue, and the last one was Crazy from the European Union. Crazy had already proven her strength in battle. Su Mingyue was an exception. As a saintess, no one wanted Su Mingyue to go on a killing spree. Of course, no one dared to defame Su Mingyue. If they did, they would be destroyed by her fans. Lin Zhen's crazy performance made the people of the world wonder if all people who became war gods at the age of 20 were this crazy. People like Shintuhua and Lei Ming were older than Lin Zhen by a year or 2. However, even if they were also 20 years old, they wouldn't be taken seriously by others. No one would care about those fake war gods. At this moment, the number of Lin Mi's fans had increased by tens of millions, and the internet was filled with praises. Lin Jun, on the other hand, was completely silent. Lin He could no longer find any black marks on Lin Jun. Only a few people were still sourly saying that it was useless to kill 10,000 people. If he couldn't advance, then it would all be for naught. They were looking forward to Lin Jun being eliminated. That would be their holiday. However, no one dared to place too much hope on this matter. Seeing how powerful Lin Jun was, it was almost impossible for him not to advance. Some people hoped that a stronger Hall of Famer would come out and eliminate Lin Jun. There was still some hope when they thought about it. Inside the virtual world, Lin Jun retrieved the spear made of liquid metal from Mario's body. Hall of Famers were indeed extraordinary. In front of Lin Jun, this Mario displayed his strength as a Hall of Famer. This person had a mid-grade spiritual defense astral tool, a low-grade astral tool armor, and a mid-grade astral tool long blade. He fearlessly attacked Lin Jun. Moreover, he was also a spirit reader in the early stage of Dark Gold. In a situation where he was prepared, Lin Jun's spiritual attack couldn't cause him too much damage. This person's will to fight was also extremely firm. He didn't fall behind at all when he fought with Lin Jun. With the mid-grade spiritual defense astral tool, Lin Jun's teleportation was interrupted several times. Mario even had the upper hand for a while. Seeing that this couldn't go on, Lin Jun decisively changed his move. The Overlord's spear couldn't pierce through Mario's astral tool armor after several consecutive thrusts. Just when he thought that victory was in his hands, Lin Jun decisively used the liquid metal and suddenly changed his spear. The spear pierced through the astral tool armor and defeated Mario. Mario never dreamed that Lin Jun could suddenly change his spear. How could a low-grade astral tool armor withstand the attack of a high-grade astral tool? He was defeated in one strike and died on the spot. Lin Jun won and let out a long sigh. With the gradual popularization of astral tools, these Hall of Famers' equipment was very good. A mid-grade spiritual defense astral tool could effectively resist Lin Jun's spiritual attack. Even if it was a low-grade astral tool, if the opponent was also a spirit reader, Lin Jun's spiritual attack would have a hard time defeating the opponent in one move. It would take a lot of effort. At the end of the day, strength was king. Lin Jun had also verified his current strength through this battle. He was now a level 5 war god. Dealing with a normal beginner war god or mid-grade war god wasn't difficult at all. He could even easily win against a normal advanced war god. Only those advanced war gods who had compressed several layers of Dantian Qi and had a spiritual defense astral tool were Lin Jun's true opponents. Especially the Hall of Famers. There were only 100 or so people in the entire world. Lin Jun's strength wasn't outstanding among these people and could only be considered below average. Fortunately, Lin Jun still had time. Right now, it was only the preliminaries. He only needed to pass the preliminaries. He still had 3 months to train. Only the elimination round would determine who the king was. Mario died. A large amount of gem fragments flew out from his body and landed on Lin Jun's body. After counting the battle, Lin Jun was immediately overjoyed. Right now, he had a total of 210 ruby fragments and 30 sapphire fragments. A total of 240 fragments. After fighting this battle, his harvest was even more than a day of weeding. 21 low-grade astral tools and 3 mid-grade astral tools. This harvest isn't small. Unfortunately, there aren't any yellow gem fragments in this grassland. If I want to get a high-grade astral tool fragment, I have to go to the Sea of Flowers. Although Lin Jun's consumption wasn't small, the radiant energy was still quickly recovering his Dantian Qi. He didn't need to rest too much. He directly passed through the gap in the fence and entered the Sea of Flowers. In the Sea of Flowers, a winter jasmine was blooming. 2 women were resting on top of the flower. One of them had long blonde hair, a hot and sexy body, and blue eyes like the sea. It was Alice. There was another woman beside Alice. She also had long blonde hair and wore a metal mask that covered most of her face. Only her sapphire-like eyes and plump red lips were exposed. Her skin wasn't like a Westerner's. Instead, it was the kind of skin that belonged to the Orientals. Although only a small part of her face was exposed, the exquisite degree of her face and her soft body seemed to be above Alice's. She had the gentleness of an Oriental beauty and the beauty of a Western woman. People couldn't help but want to find out the truth under the mask. "Miss, there's something stuck on your hair." Alice reached out her hand and removed a small piece of flower leaf from the hair of the person called Mississippi. "Oh, I didn't feel it." Miss tidied up her blonde hair. "I really didn't expect to meet you here in the sea of flowers, Mississippi. You're really amazing, Mississippi. You're ranked first on the Carnage leaderboard. I admire you to death." Alice looked at Miss with stars in her eyes. The young lady was Chris, who came from Paris Bay City. Hearing Alice's words, her beautiful red lips curled up slightly. "It's all right. I've also used all my strength. Holliff and the others probably haven't used much strength yet. I feel that even against Holliff, Miss, you can still put up a fight. It's very difficult. Holliff can kill an S-rank mutant beast alone. That's something I can't do at the moment." Crazy shook her head slightly. "That's because Miss is still young. When you reach Holliff's age, your achievements will definitely surpass his. I've never seen a fighter with more talent than you." Crazy smiled. "There are too many talented fighters. I'm not the only one who's young. For example, Divine Sex Saintess Su Mingyue. Her potential is definitely very strong." Hearing this, Alice hesitated for a moment. "Miss, I feel that you're overestimating Su Mingyue. Indeed, Su Mingyue is a rare genius. But Miss, you don't have to belittle yourself. You're now a dark gold spirit reader, and a natural-born speedy person. Furthermore, in London's Divine General Training Camp, you completed the 9 layers compression in 2 years. In less than a year, you advanced to a 5th-level war god. I feel that you're the most outstanding genius. The definition of a genius isn't that simple. I didn't know that I had such potential before. It's just that there's a force that's pushing me forward. I don't want to lose to anyone, including Su Mingyue." "Miss, you didn't lose to her. Your talents should be about the same. That Su Mingyue just looks. According to the words of the East, she's the most seductive vixen. Although I haven't seen your true face, I feel that you're definitely not inferior to her." Alice comforted her. According to your words, doesn't that make me a vixen?" "Oh, no. Miss, that's not what I meant. What I meant was, sometimes vixen isn't a derogatory term." Alice explained clumsily. "I understand. But just like you said, I value her. I think so. From a woman's point of view, she's someone worth valuing." Crazy didn't deny it. Alice saw that Miss wasn't very happy, so she didn't continue the topic. Instead, she casually looked at the virtual system. "Yeah. Miss, you've been surpassed." "Really? Did Holliff surpass me? Or Air?" Crazy asked. "Neither. It's an Asian called Linjun," Alice replied with a guilty conscience. Crazy froze for a moment. "It's him? The guy from Bing City that you went on a mission with Hansen?" "It should be. If Bing City's war god doesn't have the same name as him, and he's so young. I think he's about the same age as you. It's rare to see someone like him." Chapter 231. The spring breeze in the night gradually became stronger. The fine spring rain fell in the heavenly garden, and the night became darker. At this time, as long as someone had a gem shard on them, they would not dare to walk in the dark, because they would definitely become the target of others. Lin Jun climbed onto a tall peony flower and found a sapphire shard in the stamen. "Phew! I thought there would be a lot of gem shards in the garden, but I can't recklessly put down the flowers and plants. The speed of searching is not as fast as searching in the grass." Under such circumstances, Lin Jun could not be as reckless as he was in the grass. The speed of searching for gems became slower and slower. In the night, the sound of fighting could be heard from afar. The night rain could not stop the enthusiasm of the war gods to search for gem shard. Battles broke out from time to time. Leaning on the flower petal and looking at the night sky, screams came from afar. Someone died again. The fight is quite lively. He closed his eyes and began to sleep. After an unknown amount of time, he felt someone climb up from the other side of the peony flower. As soon as he opened his eyes, Lin Jun immediately attacked with his overlord's spear. The other person was also very alert. The two of them attacked almost at the same time. Lin Jun's overlord's spear collided with the other person's long sword. After a crisp sound, they both felt that the other person was difficult to deal with. Then, they both took a step back. Lin Jun. The person on the other side spoke. You are Doran? Lin Jun also saw the person opposite him. He had seen him in the poster before. He was the war god Doran from Ice City. Lin Jun was still somewhat vigilant about the Chongfeng Martial Arts School. This Doran was a member of Chongfeng and was also a member of the Hall of Fame. Lin Jun had to be careful that the other party might attack him. In particular, Lin Jun's body was rich with gem light. It was possible that he would become the target of others. The gem light on Doran's body was also very strong. When he saw Lin Jun's vigilant actions, he hurriedly waved his hand. Don't fight. We are all Chinese. There are foreigners everywhere. We should not kill each other. Lin Jun could feel the sincerity in Dolong's tone. He slowly put down the overlord's spear and said, if that's the case, that would be for the best. Lin Jun glanced at Doran's body and asked, you didn't get a topaz shard either? Just like him, Doran's body was also glowing with red and blue light. No, this topaz shard is too hard to find. I have met many people, but none of them have obtained a topaz shard. Dolong sat down. I think it should be in a more dangerous place, Lin Jun said. It should be, but it will be dawn soon. If I can't get the yellow gem by summer, then I have to leave. I have to go to the creek in autumn, or I won't be able to get a place to advance. Lin Jun nodded, expressing his agreement with Dolong's words. Doran hesitated for a moment, then said, Lin Jun, we aren't familiar with each other, but I have something to ask you. Please speak. Rumor has it that your girlfriend is divine sex saintess Su Mingyue. Is this true? Lin Jun glanced at Doran and felt that he didn't have any bad intentions. There was nothing to hide about this, so he nodded and said, yes. Well, I really envy you. But Lin Jun, I also grew up in Bingqing, and I am a few years older than you. When I was young, I was sponsored by the N Group. I know the eldest daughter of the N Group, Ning, and I know some of the stories between you two. Ning. Where is she? Lin Jun hadn't seen Ning for a long time. He didn't even know how she was doing recently. When he heard about Ning, he was pleasantly surprised. Doran shook his head and said, I also don't know where Ning went. She has left Bingqing for 3 years. The N Group's people are also tight-lipped about her whereabouts. They never tell anyone, but Doran paused. Lin Jun took a deep breath and said, please tell me where she is. So what if I tell you? Don't you already have Su Mingyue? Doran said faintly. Lin Jun looked up at the night sky and said, I never said that I would give up Ning. Even if you don't tell me, I will find her sooner or later. You mean? You still like Ning? Doran asked tentatively. No comment. If you want to say it, then say it. If you don't want to say it, then leave. I will find her even if I have to go to the ends of the earth. Lin Jun closed his eyes. Well, it seems like you still like her. Doran sighed helplessly and said, then I will tell you. Before the war god competition started, I went to the N Group and heard someone say that their daughter had returned. I observed carefully and indeed saw Ning. You really saw her? Lin Jun opened his eyes. Of course. We haven't seen each other for 3 years and Ning is already a war god. I have a feeling that, if we really fight, I might not be her match. Ning has advanced to war god? She's back? But why didn't she appear? I don't know about that. I originally thought that she would participate in the war god competition. After that, I also checked all the people who signed up for the competition in Bingqing. And Ning's name was not among them. This matter is a bit strange. After saying this, Doran jumped down from the flower and said, "Okay, that's all I know. Maybe you guys are fated to meet again. I'm leaving." Doran's figure disappeared into the darkness. Lin Zhen sat there without moving. If that was the case, then the person who left the message in the Eastern District's publicity area should be a Ning. But where was she? Lin Zhen didn't expect a Ning to become so strong. Even Doran, a Hall of Fame war god, felt that he wasn't her match. What had she experienced in the past few years? Lin Zhen closed his eyes and meditated quietly. After a night of wind and rain, it was morning. The morning sun shot out a ray of morning light from the east. Summer had arrived. Lin Zhen looked at the sea of flowers. The moment the sun shone, a golden light flashed in the distance. Yellow gem. Lin Zhen stood up abruptly and ran straight to the place where the golden light was emitting. Lin Zhen wasn't the only one who discovered it. Many war gods in other places also saw it. All of them came out of their hiding places and quickly ran through the sea of flowers. After about 20 minutes, Lin Zhen arrived at the place where the golden light was emitting. When he arrived, many people had already gathered here. They were all looking up. Lin Zhen also raised his head and looked up. He finally knew where the yellow gemstone was. A sunflower as thick as dozens of people hugging it towered high into the sky. The incomparably huge flower disk was facing the direction of the sun. Occasionally, a golden light flashed. Those were yellow gem fragments. Sunflower. So it's a sunflower. Yellow gems are born from bathing in sunlight. The sunflower is the place that receives the most sunlight. There are yellow gems there. The warriors were a little restless. 10 yellow gem fragments were a high-grade astral tool. Even if they couldn't gather all 10, one fragment was worth 1 billion. If they could get one, this trip to Heavenly Garden wouldn't be in vain. Some war gods couldn't hold back and wanted to pick the yellow gem. Because Heavenly Garden forbade the sky, they couldn't fly in places that were too high. They could only climb. There were 2 war gods who came first. They had already climbed up the trunk. The people below thought that they might get the big head. These 2 people suddenly screamed and fell from the trunk. These 2 people were black all over. Before they landed, they turned into light and disappeared. The trunk of the sunflower is full of caterpillars. Someone shouted. Only then did people realize that there were many huge caterpillars lying on the trunk. They were slowly moving up. These caterpillars were each the size of a yacht. The black and yellow hair all over their body was extremely poisonous. It made people shudder. These creatures were huge and poisonous. There were many of them. They definitely couldn't get through the trunk. Everyone's eyes fell on the surrounding morning glory vines. Because the sunflower was so tall, it was practically the tallest plant in Heavenly Garden. Many morning glory vines grew on the sunflower, forming green paths around it. What are you waiting for? Go! A war god from the African Alliance took the lead and climbed up a vine. When he moved, many people around him moved. This sunflower had a dozen vines hanging on it. The hundreds of war gods present all rushed out, looking for the closest vines to climb. When the war god from the African Alliance just climbed up and passed by a morning glory, that morning glory's huge mouth suddenly bit down like a big mouth. This war god from the African Alliance didn't have time to dodge and was immediately swallowed by the morning glory. Soon, white light flashed. This war god was eliminated. Gemstone fragments fell one by one. Most were red, a few were blue. The war gods behind him didn't retreat because of his death. Those morning glory vines might be able to dodge too. Plus, the light of the yellow gemstone had already evoked the desire in people's hearts. They were still moving forward. Lin Zhen also moved. First, he flew up a dozen meters. Then, he quickly climbed up. When he was about to catch up to the last person, he teleported. The higher the altitude, the weaker the power of teleportation. Lin Zhen's teleportation only covered a distance of 10 meters. Teleported again. After another 7 or 8 meters, Lin Zhen finally surpassed the war gods in front of him. Teleporting couldn't be done in this no-fly zone. Lin Zhen began to climb quickly. A Brazilian war god behind him shouted. He was originally first, but was suddenly surpassed by Lin Zhen. How could he be satisfied? He pulled out a long sword and was about to attack Lin Zhen. Lin Zhen suddenly waved his hand. Countless electric lights surged. Energy balls rolled down mercilessly, knocking this war god off the flower vines. Lin Zhen wasn't the only one who did this. Many powerful war gods had also started to eliminate their competitors. Chapter 232. The sunflower was a few hundred meters tall. Lin Zhen cleared the few competitors behind him and began to move forward quickly. In a short while, he had already reached the top of the sunflower. When he reached the top, he gradually saw the people climbing up from the other flower vines. He glanced over them. Damn, almost all of them were elite war god. The so-called elite warlords were those who had compressed their Dantian chi when they were at the peak of the warlord realm. Warlords without compressed Dantian chi were not competitive here, even if they were level 9 warlords. There were a total of 12 flower vines. Apart from Lin Zhen, there were 3 members of the Hall of the Exalted among the 11 people. One of the warlords from Brazil was called Gerardo, a member of the Hall of the Exalted. The other was Gibson, a warlord from the African Union, a member of the Hall of the Exalted. The last one was Lin Zhen's old acquaintance, Tong Yuehu from the Gale Martial School in Ice City. The 12 of them occupied different positions. The fragments of the topaz were all in the center of the sunflower. The sunflower disk was extremely huge, almost half the size of a football field. However, this distance was nothing in the eyes of the warlords. Almost everyone moved at the same time, but they were not rushing towards the center of the sunflower. The sunflower seeds were not easy to walk through. They were all attacking the people around them. Lin Zhen was the same. He brazenly attacked with his overlord's spear. A warlord from the United States also wanted to attack Lin Zhen, but his speed was completely inferior to Lin Zhen's. He was stabbed to death by Lin Zhen's spear. A pile of gemstone fragments flew over. Lin Zhen waved his hand and collected them all. Suddenly, he turned his head and a torrential rain of spear lights connected to a long river. After a series of attacks, another warlord from the European Union fell under Lin Zhen's spear. The Hall of the Exalted also showed their strength. Including Lin Zhen and the other 3 Hall of the Exalted, the 4 of them each killed 2 other elite warlords. The 12 of them became 4 in an instant. After clearing the 8 of them, Gibson spoke. Yaluordo, these 2 people are from Ice City. We can only defeat them if we work together. Don't give them a chance to defeat us one by one. Yaluordo immediately went to Gibson's side. At this time, he did not think that Gibson would dare to attack him. If he was eliminated, Gibson would not be able to face the 2 Bing City war gods. The 2 of them instantly formed an alliance, and immediately attacked Lin Zhen. From their point of view, Tong Yuehu was a 9th-grade war god and a member of the Hall of Fame, so he shouldn't be easy to deal with. On the other hand, Lin Zhen was only a 5th-grade war god. Although he had shown great strength, his level was still low, so he should be able to take him down. Lin Zhen wasn't a member of the Hall of Famer, and he wasn't heavily promoted, so they didn't know him. The 2 of them quickly rushed toward Lin Zhen, worried that Tong Yuehu would help Lin Zhen from behind. Tong Yuehu didn't have any intention of helping Lin Zhen. In fact, if it weren't for the faint golden light of the topaz in the center of the sunflower, he would have joined forces with the other 2 war gods to attack Lin Zhen. Ha ha ha! Lin Zhen, let these 2 foreign friends play with you. I won't teach you a lesson today, I'm going to collect the topaz. Tong Yuehu laughed loudly when he saw Lin Zhen being attacked by 2 Hall of Famers. He went straight to the center of the sunflower. The topaz was located inside the sunflower seed, and it was emitting a golden light through the sunflower seed, but it wasn't easy to collect. The sunflower seeds on the sunflower plate were taller than a person. They were more than 2 meters tall, and they were very close to each other. If one wanted to walk to the center, it was impossible to go around the sunflower seeds. One could only step on the tip of the sunflower seeds and walk carefully. Because the sunflower was located high in the sky, it couldn't fly, and it was swaying gently. It wasn't easy to walk through the sunflower seed array that was the size of a football field. The battle between Lin Zhen and the two war gods had begun. Seeing that Tong Yuehu was going to collect the topaz, Lin Zhen was a little anxious, but he didn't show it. He still fought with the two war gods with all his strength. Although he was always at a disadvantage, it wasn't easy for his opponents to take him down. Seeing that Tong Yuehu didn't help Lin Zhen but went straight for the topaz fragments, Yaoyuordo and Gibson were anxious. Gibson saw that Lin Zhen didn't seem to be very powerful, but his defense was relatively strong. He said to Yaoyuordo, "You hold him back, I'll go and teach Tong Yuehu a lesson." "Okay, I'll be able to take care of this brat soon." Yaoyuordo patted his chest and promised. Gibson immediately left the battle group and went straight to Tong Yuehu. Tong Yuehu tiptoed past a few sunflower seeds. When he saw Gibson chasing after him, he suddenly shouted angrily, "Lin Zhen, you're deliberately going easy on me." "What do you mean going easy on me? Why do you have to collect the topaz fragments by yourself? Everyone gets one each, it's fair." Lin Zhen saw that Gibson had left and suddenly started to use his strength. He shot out a photoelectric energy ball with one hand, catching Yaoyuordo unprepared. Lin Zhen followed up with a mental attack, then a series of torrential storm and long river combination spear skills, directly eliminating Yaoyuordo from the competition. After killing Yaoyuordo, Lin Zhen ignored the battle between Tong Yuehu and Gibson and started to think of a way to approach the center of the sunflower. Seeing that Lin Zhen wanted to do the same thing and shake him off, Tong Yuehu was suddenly a little anxious. He didn't care about hiding his strength anymore. His body flashed, and a mid-grade astral weapon longsword and armor appeared. He also used his trump card. Gibson's strength wasn't considered strong, and under Tong Yuehu's relentless attacks, he finally couldn't resist. Tong Yuehu succeeded in one strike and eliminated him. However, Gibson's counterattack before his death also injured Tong Yuehu's shoulder. Tong Yuehu didn't care about this injury. Relying on the momentum from killing a Hall of the Exalted member, he pointed his longsword at Lin Zhen and said, "Lin Zhen, now it's just you and me left. Don't even think about getting a single topaz here. Let's settle this once and for all." Lin Zhen didn't immediately attack Tong Yuehu. Instead, he looked behind him. There was a flower vine there. If someone came up from below, Tong Yuehu would be easily attacked. Lin Zhen slightly took 2 steps back and said, "Tong Yuehu, although I, Lin Zhen, am a new war god, I don't put trash like you in my eyes. If you insist on seeking death, I'll fulfill your wish today. Bah! If I can expel you from Gale, I can also eliminate you today, Lin Zhen. I, Tong Yuehu, will be a nightmare that you can't escape from for the rest of your life. I will trample you to death forever." Ah! Tong Yuehu deliberately provoked Lin Zhen loudly, hoping to make Lin Zhen panic. However, before he finished speaking, the sunflower swayed and another war god jumped up. Tong Yuehu fiercely turned his head. The long sword in his hand slashed down as he shouted, "A member of the Hall of the Exalted is here. Unrelated people, get out of my way!" A mid-grade astral tool longsword, a level 9 war god, and a compressed Dantian Qi of 6 stages. This kind of strength couldn't be considered top-notch, but it definitely wasn't weak. In fact, Tong Yuehu hadn't met any real opponents in the Heavenly Garden. However, once he met one, he met a very powerful one. The person in front of him was tall and sturdy, like a strong polar bear. When he saw Tong Yuehu's longsword coming at him, he actually grinned and said, "Hee hee. The dojo master of Gale, China's Ice City. This is a good prey." Lin Jun clearly saw the situation of the battle from afar. Tong Yuehu's swift and unparalleled sword slashed out. However, when it reached that person, it became slower and slower. It was as if he was carrying a mountain on his back. It was so heavy that Tong Yuehu couldn't even straighten his waist. When the long sword was about to reach that person's chest, the tip of the sword was already stuck in the ground. It was difficult for Tong Yuehu to move forward. His face was full of disbelief. Then, that person stretched out his giant hand and grabbed Tong Yuehu's neck. He lifted Tong Yuehu up as if he was grabbing a chicken. His face revealed a cruel and evil smile. Whoosh! Another person jumped onto the sunflower and stood beside that person. Lin Jun had seen these two people before. He had seen them in the magazine. The person who came later was Lancelot from Leningrad headquarters city. He was one of the 3 Russian warriors. The person who was grabbing Tong Yuehu's neck with one hand was St. Petersburg headquarters city's northern war god, Holov. He was the champion of the war god arena in his previous life. Holov held Tong Yuehu's neck with one hand and lifted him up in the air with the other. His arm was stretched out, allowing Tong Yuehu to struggle. Tong Yuehu's long sword was nowhere to be found. Both his hands were holding on tightly to Holov's hand. His face was pale and his tongue was hanging out. He kept kicking and twisting his legs, but he couldn't shake off the giant hand. Lancelot was almost 2 m tall, but standing beside Holov, he looked like a child. Holov was definitely more than 2-3 m tall, and he looked like a small mountain standing there. Lancelot laughed at Tong Yuehu. Don't struggle. Holov was born with superhuman strength, and not just any superhuman strength. He was born with superhuman strength, and his strength has been enhanced. Although he's not a spirit reader, his sea of consciousness has mutated, and he's not afraid of any spirit attacks. Hence, any spirit reader is useless in front of him. Not to mention you, even the S-grade mutant polar bear was killed by him. What's the use of struggling? These words were not just for Tong Yuehu, but also for Lin Jun. Although Holov was grabbing Tong Yuehu, his eyes were fixed on Lin Jun. Lin Jun's expression was calm, but his heart was in turmoil. Born with superhuman strength, sea of consciousness mutation. For these 2 things to happen to the same person, Holov was truly blessed by the heavens. If 1 out of 10,000 martial artists had superhuman strength, then only 1 out of 10,000 would be born with superhuman strength. A 1 in 100 million chance of a superhuman strength. How many martial artists were there in the world? Currently, the global population was less than 2 billion, and martial artists accounted for less than 10%. That was to say, there were less than 200 million martial artists in the world. Chapter 233. What's even rarer is that Holov has a mutated spiritual sea. A mutated spiritual sea means that one's spiritual sea has been severely damaged or stimulated, making it impossible for one to become a spirit reader in this lifetime. For most people, this is a disaster, but for some people, it's a blessing in disguise and mutated. This mutation means that his spiritual force has been condensed. There's no possibility of it developing. Not only will he forever be unable to become a spirit reader, he will also no longer be afraid of spiritual attacks. Even if Lin Jun is now a late-stage dark gold rank, his spiritual attacks won't be able to cause any damage to Holov's spiritual sea. A 9th-level war god, born with godly strength, and his strength has been specially strengthened. Adding on the mutation of his spiritual force, this person is basically a human tank with almost no weaknesses. Speed might be his weakness, but when Tong Yuehu attacked him just now, he couldn't even touch him. He couldn't even straighten his back and walk. This kind of method made Lin Jun even more wary. Also, from Lin Jun's observation, Holov's Dantian compression is also very strong. It should be about the same level as Su Mingyue, 9th-level compression. This kind of person, no wonder Tong Yuehu couldn't even resist and was lifted up by the neck like a baby. Tong Yuehu tried to struggle at first, but seeing that there's no chance, he wanted to give up. At least committing suicide is better than being killed by others and appearing on the big screen. But that Holliff isn't simple either. When he felt that Tong Yuehu had given up struggling, he knew that he was going to give up. Trying to commit suicide in my hands, that's an insult to my character. Goodbye, China's dojo master is only SOSO. Bang! Holliff exerted force with one hand and Tong Yuehu's neck was crushed by him. In an instant, blood and brain matter splattered everywhere, then turned into specks of light. Tong Yuehu's corpse disappeared from the heavenly garden, leaving behind some rubies and sapphires on his body. Outside the virtual world, there's an uproar. On the second day of entering the virtual world, the number of war gods in the virtual world had decreased. The 30,000 war gods had decreased by more than half, leaving less than 13,000 people. Lin Zhen was still number 1 on the Carnage leaderboard. Currently, he had killed 41 people. However, his number 1 position was no longer guaranteed. Behind him, the first group of people who had killed over 30 people had already formed. There were more than a dozen people who could replace Lin Zhen's position at any time. But now, no one dared to slander Lin Zhen. In order to avoid being slapped in the face, those slanderers were holding their breaths and praying to God and Buddha that Lin Zhen would be eliminated. At this time, a series of notifications flashed on the big screen. Lin Zhen, the god of war from Azure Sky Dojo of Bingqing Bay City, Huaxia, killed the god of war from Rio de Janeiro Bay City, Brazil, Hall of the Exalted. Tong Yuehu of Lifeng Martial Arts School, Bingqing Bay City, China, killed Au War God of Cairo, Gibson, Hall of Famer. There had been a fierce battle before. Lin Zhen and Tong Yuehu had both eliminated some people, but there were no Hall of the Exalted members among them. At this point, not killing Hall of the Exalted members could no longer arouse people's interest. This time, 2 Hall of the Exalted members had been eliminated in a row, which aroused people's discussion. Did Lin Zhen and Tong Yuehu team up? Based on Gibson's performance just now, they should be in the same place. Now, they have both been eliminated by Lin Zhen. It can't be. Isn't Lin Zhen and Tong Yuehu like fire and water? Why would they team up to fight the enemy? It's hard to say. For the sake of benefits, these warriors will do anything. They may be enemies before, but the next moment, they may be friends. They are all shameless people without principles. Lin Zhen is just SOSO. Lin Mi and the others didn't care too much about Lin Zhen's views. It was just some unfounded speculation. Now, other than whether Lin Zhen could advance or not, nothing else was a problem. After a while, Lin He felt bored. It seemed that Lin Zhen's advancement was unstoppable. At this moment, the big screen showed a new message. Russia's St. Petersburg war god Holliff killed China's Gale war god Tong Yuehu, Hall of the Exalted. When the news came out, the world exploded. Holliff finally attacked China's warriors. Although he had killed many Chinese war gods before, he didn't kill any Hall of the Exalted members. This was the first time. It was fine if he didn't make a move, but once he made a move, he killed a 9th-grade war god. Moreover, it was the Hall Master of Gale Ice City. There was another important point. Tong Yuehu and Lin Zhen were together. Now that Tong Yuehu was dead, did Lin Zhen still have any hope? The people immediately reached a consensus. Lin Zhen was going to be eliminated. No matter how strong he was, he would definitely die if he encountered Holliff. Suddenly, the internet was filled with cheers. Lin Zhen is finished. He is dead this time. Ha ha ha. Lin Zhen, you can continue to be arrogant. I guess you won't be able to last 3 minutes. 3 minutes is overestimating him. I bet he won't be able to last 1 minute. 1 minute is still possible. Lin Zhen seems to run pretty fast. The only question now is Lin Zhen with Tong Yuehu? Immediately, countless people started to search for Tong Yuehu on the internet. After Tong Yuehu was eliminated, he was still looking for an excuse for his elimination. He immediately logged onto the internet and quickly posted a post. In the virtual battle of the Sea of Flowers, Lin Zhen and I worked together to eliminate the two war gods, Gibson and Yaoyuordo. I believe everyone has seen it. However, after encountering Holloff and Lancelot, Lin Zhen retreated. I couldn't defeat them and was eliminated. Lin Zhen is a despicable and short-sighted person. He wanted to use the enemy to eliminate me. But have you ever thought about how long you can last if I am eliminated? You will soon follow in my footsteps. I, Tong Yuehu, will wait here for you to be eliminated. Tong Yuehu's post had several uses. First, it was to find an excuse for his elimination. After all, he was facing two Hall of Famers and a super war god like Holloff. It was not embarrassing for him to be defeated. Secondly, it was to viciously criticize Lin Zhen. From his point of view, Lin Zhen would also be eliminated immediately. This would prove his words. It was equivalent to giving a gun to all the Lin Zhen haters in the world, allowing them to freely fire at Lin Zhen. Tong Yuehu's identity was there. After all, he was Bing City's dojo master and a Chinese. His words were very credible. This ignited a gunpowder keg. Countless posts were rolling on the internet. Less than 1% of the people doubted him. Most of them were criticizing Lin Zhen. Of course, there were also some people who defended Lin Zhen. They were defending the Chinese martial artist. Lin Zhen's performance was good, and his donation in Beijing was also very popular. The Chinese martial artists tried their best to fight back. Don't you all shamelessly defend Lin Zhen. This person is a scumbag. He has betrayed his friends more than once. Last time it was Lei Ming. This time it was Tong Yuehu. Aren't they both from Bing City? What do you know? Lei Ming and Lin Zhen fought before, and Tong Yuehu was the one who kicked Lin Zhen out of Gale. Lin Zhen will work with anyone but them. I believe in Lin Zhen. I believe in Lin Zhen too. Stubborn. No matter what you say, it is useless. Tong Yuehu has already spoken. Let's wait for Lin Zhen to be eliminated. Let's see what else you all have to say. War God Holloff is invincible. Crush Lin Zhen's head. It is best to destroy Lin Zhen completely. After he is eliminated from the qualifiers, I want to see if the Saint will still like this useless person. Bullsh *T. The Saint does not like Lin Zhen. The Saint is mine. The intense war of words lasted for 5 minutes. There were hundreds of millions of comments on the forum. It was almost impossible to see what was going on. However, after 5 minutes, the war of words gradually stopped. This was because they realized a problem. It had already been 6 to 7 minutes since Tong Yuehu came out and they started scolding him. Why hadn't Lin Zhen been eliminated yet? Therefore, people started to question Tong Yuehu. Was he really with Lin Zhen? Tong Yuehu immediately pointed to the sky and swore that he was definitely with Lin Zhen. He also mentioned the situation at the Sea of Flowers in the virtual world. He said that Holloff and Lancelot were together. Lin Zhen definitely had no chance of escaping. The reason why he was not eliminated might be that Holloff was torturing Lin Zhen. Tong Yuehu's oath was very convincing. In addition, many war gods who were eliminated came forward to confirm Tong Yuehu's words. In the virtual world, some of the sunflowers had yellow gemstone fragment. Moreover, there were also people who were eliminated who confirmed that Holloff had gone to the Sea of Flowers. Among them were Gibson and Yaoyuordo, who were eliminated. After these people's testimonies, the Lin haters were relieved. They believed that Lin Zhen would definitely not be able to escape from Holloff's pursuit. The only question now was when would Lin Zhen be eliminated. In the Paradise Garden, Lin Zhen looked at Holloff and Lancelot who were gradually approaching him. To the current Lin Zhen, Holloff was almost undefeatable. His weakness was speed. However, Lin Zhen did not dare to use his speed recklessly. Tong Yuehu's example was in front of him. Holloff definitely still had some tricks up his sleeve. Holloff walked over with a ferocious smile. Lin Zhen, oh Lin Zhen, When I found out that you came to the Sea of Flowers, I even gave up on my plan to go through the Sea of Flowers. I purposely came back to deal with you. In the end, I really trapped you here. Now, where are you going to run to?" Although the sunflower was half the size of a football field, it was nothing to a war god. Lin Zhen only had two choices now. One was to give up all the yellow gemstone fragments and jump off the sunflower to escape. The other was to stay and fight. There was a distance where he could not teleport from the sunflower. Facing the floating petunias, jumping off might not guarantee his survival. Chapter 234. Ha ha! Lin Zhen, unless you commit suicide today, I will tear you into pieces. Lancelot, block off Lin Zhen's escape route. Watch me kill him. Lancelot immediately circled around the sunflower, trying to block off Lin Zhen from another direction. The center of the sunflower was filled with sunflower seeds. The gaps between the seeds were not small, and the tip of the seeds was smaller than a human's foot. It was impossible to move around there, so as long as he circled around, Lin Zhen would have no way to escape. Lin Zhen also knew this, but he did not think of escaping. Since he had met the strongest war god, he wanted to test his opponent's strength. Spiritual attack. Late dark gold spiritual power whizzed out and went straight for Holof's spiritual sea. Boom! Lin Zhen felt as if his spiritual power had hit an invisible wall and was immediately repelled. It did not affect Holof at all. Ha ha! I already said that my spiritual sea has mutated and condensed. Any spiritual power attack is useless against me. Lin Zhen, do you still want to overestimate yourself? Lin Zhen saw that his spiritual power was indeed ineffective. He immediately held his overlord's spear and fiercely stabbed out. Storm. The sky was filled with spear shadows, covering a large area. Holof sneered and walked towards Lin Zhen, ignoring the sky full of spear rain. When Lin Zhen's spear rain entered within 5 meters of Holof, Lin Zhen suddenly felt that the spear in his hand was at least 10 million pounds. An invisible pressure fell from the sky, making him unable to hold the spear. Even standing was a problem. Gravity field. Lin Zhen suddenly cried out. He did not expect that Holof was not only a natural-born Herculean king, but also a master of gravity field. The gravity field was a very special attack, and it could be done just by using the Dantian Qi. The formless pressure field expanded outwards with Holof as the center, and everything within 10 meters of him was within the range of his gravity field. Lin Zhen felt as though he was carrying a mountain on his shoulders. Wanting to raise his overlord's spear to attack was nothing more than a pipe dream. At this moment, his muscles and bones started to cry out, as he was somewhat unable to withstand the immense pressure that was descending from the sky. Ha ha! That's right, this is a gravitational field. Lin Zhen, I've activated 10 times the normal pressure. Every square centimeter in a 10-meter radius around me is bearing 10 times the normal pressure. For example, if your gun weighs 500 kilograms, then this is 5,000 kilograms. Lin Zhen, can you still wield it? Your weight has increased tenfold. Under my heavy suppression, it's difficult for you to even straighten your back. Lin Zhen, do you still want to fight? Lin Zhen single-handedly used the Overlord's spear to push against the ground, forcing his body to not fall. He clenched his teeth and withstood the immense pressure. Don't hold on. Be obedient and let me catch you. Be torn apart like a rag doll. Holof walked forward step by step. His huge palm reached out and was about to squeeze Lin Zhen's neck. Lin Zhen lowered his head, gathering strength in his body. No wonder Tong Yuehu couldn't resist at all. This guy isn't afraid of mental attacks, and with the gravity field suppression, any object that enters the gravitational field will be suppressed and unable to move. The only way to break the gravitational field is to use an energy body. Only an energy body can be unaffected by the gravitational field. I have to fight back. Seeing Holof walk over, the Overlord's spear in Lin Zhen's hand suddenly disappeared. It was extremely difficult for him to even raise his hand, but Lin Zhen still persisted and made a move. He raised his head and his eyes glowed. The charged particles in his body glowed and shot out from his eyes. Holliff instinctively felt that it was too dazzling and raised his hand to block it. This small movement gave Lin Zhen a chance to catch his breath. He flipped his palm, and an energy ball shot out, fiercely shooting towards Holliff. Boom! The electrical energy exploded in front of Holliff's chest. Light and electricity were energy bodies that weren't affected by the gravitational field, and their speed was very fast. Holliff couldn't dodge it. The explosion shook the sunflower slightly, but the result made Lin Zhen's jaw drop. A high-grade astral armor appeared on Holliff's chest. Although the electrical energy made him shake, he still stood steadily. He didn't fall or get injured. "Kid, you really have some tricks up your sleeve. No wonder you could kill Adolf. But after meeting me, your luck is over. This time, you won't have any chance." Holliff raised his hand and was about to release the gravitational field again. Lin Zhen knew the situation wasn't good. Taking advantage of the time before the gravitational field increased, he suddenly retreated and jumped onto the seeds in the center of the sunflower. The tips of the sunflower seeds were facing upwards. Lin Zhen stepped on the tip of each sunflower seed with each step and quickly ran forward. Soon, she reached the center of the sunflower field. At this distance, he was already out of the range of Holliff's gravitational field. Standing at the edge, he couldn't use the gravitational field to suppress Lin Zhen. Lin Zhen once again pulled out his overlord's spear and pointed at Holliff. "Holliff, I'll wait for you here. Do you dare to come up and fight with me?" "Damn rat, don't think you can run away like this." Holliff seemed to be very disdainful of Lin Zhen's actions. He took large strides towards the sunflower seeds. When he walked up, he immediately felt something was wrong. The distance between the tips of each seed was about a meter. If he didn't take a step, he would easily fall. Fighting here was really a skill. After taking a few steps forward, he realized that the gravitational field didn't seem to work so well here. If the gravitational field was too weak, it couldn't deal with Lin Zhen. Every time the gravitational field enveloped Lin Zhen, the first one to give up wasn't Lin Zhen. It was the sunflower seeds that would shatter under the force. Lin Zhen used this opportunity to collect 3 pieces of yellow gem. Moreover, this guy was very slippery. He didn't stay in any place for long. When the gravitational field came down, he would use the force of the sunflower seeds to dodge. Not only did it not suppress him, but it also blocked Holliff's way forward a few times. Holliff decided not to use the gravitational field. With the upper astral armor protecting him, he didn't care about Lin Zhen's attack. He took large strides towards Lin Zhen. "Lancelot, stop him." It was too difficult to walk on the sunflower seed. Holliff had to ask Lancelot for help. Lancelot answered loudly and entered the center of the sunflower. It carefully walked on the sunflower seeds and approached Lin Zhen. Seeing that Lancelot was approaching, Lin Zhen, who had been fighting with Holliff, finally started his counterattack. The path was difficult for Holliff and Lancelot, but it was nothing to Lin Zhen. To him, it was the standard plum blossom dueling ground. When he was learning spear skills from Zhang Guanyue, Lin Zhen was very familiar with the plum blossom dueling ground. He had been fighting with Holliff to lure Lancelot here. His opponent was one of the 3 Russian warriors. Lin Zhen had already eliminated Adolf. It would be difficult for him to eliminate Adolf again. However, when it came to the sunflower, it was no longer up to him. "Lancelot, be careful." Holliff was struggling to walk, but he saw Lin Zhen accelerate all of a sudden. It was as if she was running on flat ground as she charged towards Lancelot. "Don't worry, I'm going to kill him." Lancelot was not worried about Lin Zhen. Both of them met and started to fight. The Overlord's spear in Lin Zhen's hand was like a venomous dragon, attacking Lancelot from all angles. It was not that Lancelot was weak, but it was too difficult for him to turn around. It was not difficult to attack, but to not fall after turning around. Clang, clang, clang. After 3 consecutive shots, Lin Jun leaped behind Lancelot twice in a row and stabbed him 3 times in the back. Lancelot turned around in panic. Lin Jun's spirit attack. Lancelot also had a spirit defense astral weapon, but it was unavoidable that he was half a beat slower. The pause of less than 0.1 seconds had caused his feet to deviate from the landing point. Lancelot had to control his balance as he fell. However, Lin Jun would not give him the chance to do so and continued to stab him. Poof, poof, poof. Blood spurted out and Lancelot screamed. His body turned into light spots, and he was eliminated. Not far away, Holloff was still struggling to move forward, roaring as he ran. Lin Jun sneered, "You big bear from Siberia, take your time. I'm going to collect the gem shards first." Using his speed advantage, Lin Jun avoided Holloff's gravitational field. Moreover, Lin Jun had gravitational field which allowed him to attack from more than 10 meters away. The gold aura broke the sunflower seeds and the gravitational field absorbed the topaz. In just a short while, he had collected almost 20 topaz pieces on the sunflower. Although there were still people being eliminated on the big screen outside, there was no news about Lin Jun. 5 minutes passed, and another person was eliminated. Among them, someone brought the latest news. There was a huge battle on a sunflower in the Sea of Flowers. Lin Jun was fighting fiercely with Russia's Hollow and Lancelot. He was watching the battle from afar, but he was killed by the European Union's Crazy. No one cared if this unlucky guy was dead or alive. What was important was the news he brought. Lin Jun was fighting. Holloff and Lancelot had teamed up. Lin Jun was doomed. Lin Jun's fans began to look forward to the moment when Lin Jun was eliminated. Many of them even typed on their keyboards. They were waiting for Lin Jun to be eliminated so that they could post insulting articles to provoke the Chinese martial artists. Time ticked away and another 5 minutes passed. Just when everyone was getting impatient, the big screen finally showed a rolling message. Chapter 235. Lin Jun had killed Lancelot. The people outside could not believe what they had seen. Wasn't Lancelot with Holloff? How could he be killed by Lin Jun? Could it be that Lin Jun's ability had surpassed Holloff's? That was impossible. Holloff's strength had been deeply rooted in the people's hearts. Lin Jun had only been promoted to warlord not long ago. Even if he was a god, it was impossible for him to achieve such a feat in such a short period of time. However, Lancelot was dead. That was the absolute truth. Linme on the internet exploded once again. Countless celebratory posts appeared like a geyser. Lin Jun is so cool. I love you. Tong Yuehu is a burden. It's better that he's dead. Lin Jun doesn't need you at all. You're just a hindrance in there. Do you think you're worthy of criticizing Lin Jun? Expelling Lin Jun is the stupidest thing you've ever done in your life. What else do the haters have to say this time? They're all speechless. Haha. Good luck, Lin Jun. Continue to kill Holloff. How many Hall of the Famers has Lin Jun killed? Why isn't a master like Lin Jun in the Hall of the Famers? What's the point of such a ranking? Posts after posts appeared. Lin Jun's haters were frustrated. As time passed, there was still no news of Lin Jun's elimination. They were disappointed and curious at the same time. Why was there no result in the battle between Holloff and Lin Jun? Seeing that Lin Jun had collected the topaz fragments one by one, Holloff finally had enough of the snail-like speed. He roared, "Lin Jun, get down here!" An unprecedented gravitational force fell from the sky. Holloff's hair stood on end. It was obvious that it was very difficult for him to exert such a great pressure. The sunflower was already huge. After being pressed by the immense pressure, it could not withstand the gravitational force and the huge flower disk fell. Lin Jun didn't expect Holloff to be so extreme as to destroy the sunflower. Lin Jun couldn't fly at high altitude. He hurriedly grabbed the edge of the sunflower and tried his best to maintain his balance as he plummeted. The sound of wind whistling could be heard, and the ground was rapidly approaching. Holliff was holding a morning glory vine in his hand. While descending, he was still staring at Lin Jun, waiting for the moment when he was close to the ground. When he was only a dozen meters above the ground, the effect of the forbidden flight disappeared. Lin Jun activated his telekinesis and prepared to teleport away. Who? A huge gravitational force descended from the sky. Lin Jun, who was in the air, was unable to avoid the gravitational field. His body was smashed to the ground uncontrollably. Lin Jun, you're going to die here. Holliff's body was too strong. He smashed to the ground like a cannonball. His legs were almost nailed into the ground and immediately bounced up. The gravitational field was still suppressing Lin Jun. Lin Jun raised his hand as he was about to hit the ground. The liquid metal turned into a long rope and hooked onto a flower stem in the distance. He was about to pull himself out of the gravitational field. As long as he was out of the gravitational field, he was confident that he could escape Holliff's pursuit. But just as Holliff was about to pounce, a sword aura suddenly attacked from behind. The sharp sword aura made his hair stand on end. He couldn't care less about chasing Lin Jun. He hurriedly turned around to block. This was the first time Holliff used a weapon. A huge war hammer blocked the incoming sword aura. A string of sparks flew. Holliff was furious when he saw the person in front of him. Chris. You are the European Union's Chris. You dare to sneak attack me? At this time, the gravitational field suppressing Lin Jun disappeared. Lin Jun quietly withdrew the liquid metal and looked at the person who sneak attacked Holliff. He wanted to see who was so daring. A head of golden hair scattered down like waves. She wore a black golden mask on her face. Only her sapphire-like eyes and beautiful red lips were exposed. Her skin was smooth and smooth. Just from her skin and lips, she looked a bit like an Asian. She wore a black skirt armor. The skirt armor and the metal mask were both astral tools. In her hand was an Asian-style sword. It was actually a high-grade astral tool. A beautiful and mysterious woman. She was the European Union's war god Chris. Beside her, there was a typical Western beauty. Lin Jun knew that this person was called Alice. She was Hansen's superior. Chris's sneak attack didn't succeed. She coldly laughed. Who told you two to have such a dense treasure aura? If I didn't sneak attack you, who would I sneak attack? You're lucky that you didn't succeed this time. Alice, let's go. Saying this, Chris jumped and quickly left the place. In the blink of an eye, she disappeared. Although Holliff was very strong, speed was his weakness. Seeing Chris disappear, he couldn't catch up. Lin Jun faintly heard Alice's voice. Miss, you're too daring. You actually dared to sneak attack Holliff. Wait for me. Lin Jun glanced at Holliff and directly rose into the air. Big Bear, you can stay here and remember your dead comrade. Goodbye. If a spirit reader wanted to leave in a place where they could fly, it was almost impossible to catch them. Moreover, Lin Jun was a dark gold stage spirit reader. Holliff was furious, but he could only watch Lin Jun leave. Lin Jun. Chris. You two better remember this. This is only the preliminaries. When it comes to the knockout stage, unless you give up, I will make sure you die miserably when you meet my people. Holliff had never been so depressed before. He vented his anger by smashing things around him. It was such a mess that no one dared to approach him. After venting his anger, Holliff began to move forward. He didn't want to get gemstone shards anymore. He wanted to go to the garden house as soon as possible and obtain a place to advance. Lin Jun flew for a while and circled around. He found that there were only a few sunflowers in the surrounding dozens of miles. Moreover, they had all been explored. It was almost impossible to find any more yellow gemstones. He didn't stay here any longer and headed straight for the stream. On the way, Lin Jun was still thinking about Chris. Did this woman really plan to sneak attack Holliff? Why was she so confident? If she really eliminated Holliff, would she continue to attack him? After analyzing the situation at that time, Lin Jun felt that he was the best target, but Crazy chose Holliff, who was more difficult to deal with. Could it be that she wanted to save him? No way. Lin Zhen didn't know any Western war goddess. This was impossible. Throwing away these chaotic thoughts, Lin Zhen slowly walked into a bamboo forest. The bamboo forest was the closest place to the stream. After passing through the bamboo forest, he would reach the stream. At this time, the sky was getting dark and the air was getting colder. Summer in the Garden of Heaven was about to end. Autumn was about to arrive. At night, Lin Zhen rested in the depths of the bamboo forest. There were night spiders and green bamboo pythons. Traveling at night wasn't a good idea. Lying on a bamboo leaf, just as he closed his eyes, a notification came from the system. Opening it, there was actually someone who advanced first. Congratulations to Los Angeles War God Doke from America for reaching the Garden House. Currently, there are 1,023 spots left. Lin Zhen was stunned for a moment. Wow, they're really going all out. Autumn hasn't even arrived and they're already at the garden hut. This will definitely agitate those who haven't advanced yet. I reckon that there will be fewer and fewer people fighting for the gem shards. Looking at the total number of people in the garden, it had dropped from 13,000 to 8,000. Lin Zhen closed his eyes. After a day of running and fighting, he was slightly tired. He started to rest. It was already the third day of the qualifiers. The spectators outside were still in high spirits as they watched the people who advanced continuously appear on the big screen. Congratulations to Pogba from the African Alliance for reaching the Garden House. Currently, there are 106 spots left. Congratulations to Shehan, the god of war from India, for reaching the Garden Hut and obtaining an advancement slot. There are currently 981 advancement slots left. Congratulations to China's war god, Feng Yanai, for reaching the Garden Hut and obtaining an advancement slot. There are currently 922 advancement slots remaining. Congratulations to Air from the European Union for reaching the Garden House. Currently, there are 870 spots left. One by one, people advance. Among them, Feng Yanai from China, Tang Wenba, Dolong, Xin Rahai, Ma Yao, Wei Li, and the others advanced. The members of the Hall of Fame from all over the world also showed their strength. As long as they were not eliminated halfway, it was not a problem for them to advance. By noon of the third day, the number of people who advanced had reached 700. There were only 300 spots left. At this time, Lin Zhen, who everyone was paying attention to, had just arrived at the stream. Lin Zhen was also working hard. Following the majority to the stream, he stayed in the bamboo forest area. After a morning of searching, he finally found nearly 20 topaz shards. Currently, Lin Zhen had 500 ruby shards, 100 sapphire shards, and 40 topaz shards. He was considered a super rich person. After collecting 40 topaz shards, Lin Zhen finally stopped and decided to go to the stream. He had no choice but to go. There were only 300 spots left. If he really delayed his advancement because of collecting shards, it would be too tragic. After reaching the side of the stream, Lin Zhen saw a big river. The river was thousands of meters wide. It was mighty and there were many people crossing the river. None of these people went into the water or flew. Instead, they used the bamboo on the shore to make huge bamboo rafts and began to cross the river. Why don't we fly over? Just as Lin Zhen was puzzled, a spirit reader couldn't hold it in any longer. He flew close to the surface of the river, but a huge goldfish suddenly emerged from the water and swallowed him whole. After the goldfish jumped out, 7 or 8 other goldfish jumped out of the water at the same time. However, they did not swallow anything. Wow! Such a big fish. Is it a goldfish or a whale? No wonder they want to make the bamboo raft bigger. I have to act quickly. Chapter 236. Lin Zhen had a giant interspatial ring. Sometimes, he would throw his spoils of war into it. After rummaging around, he really did find a large bundle of rope. Using the long knife made from liquid metal, Lin Zhen began to cut the bamboo to make the raft. Only when the raft was big enough that the goldfish couldn't swallow it would they have a chance to cross the river. After 2 hours, a giant bamboo raft was finally completed. Looking at the number of people who could advance, he found that there were less than 200 people left. The total number of people in Heaven's Garden was less than 4,000. There were still many people fighting on the riverbank. The qualifiers wouldn't last until the end. Before winter came, those who could advance would have already advanced. The remaining people would still be looking for fragments. Lin Zhen pushed the giant bamboo raft and rushed to the riverbank. As he ran, he shouted, "Out of the way! Out of the way! Anyone in my way will die!" Some of the war gods who had gone crazy for the gemstone fragments didn't care. They rushed toward Lin Zhen. Lin Zhen tried to put the raft into his interspatial ring, but he found that the raft was a little too big. It just didn't fit. He had no choice but to stand on the raft and fight with these fugitives. The people blocking the way weren't experts. Most of the real experts had left. These people weren't much of a threat to Lin Zhen. Lin Zhen continuously teleported. His spear flashed, and one war god after another fell to his spear. Even so, there were still many people who rushed out of the bamboo forest by the river bank. When they saw Lin Zhen's body, they immediately rushed over with bloodshot eyes. Lin Zhen didn't have a chance to push the raft into the river. He could only fight with these people on the riverbank. Outside the virtual world, people were looking at the big screen, nervously waiting for the result. Congratulations to Russia's war god Holov for reaching the garden hut. He has advanced to the next round. There are still 100 spots left. Many of Holov's supporters cheered. The strongest person in their hearts had advanced. The champion of this competition was certain. On the other hand, Lin Zhen's supporters were a little nervous. Why hadn't Lin Zhen advanced yet? The rolling credits on the big screen were still flashing. War God Lin Zhen from Gale Azure Sky Dojo of Huaxia Bingqing killed non-league War God XXX. War God Lin Zhen from Gale Azure Sky Dojo of Huaxia Ice City killed War God XXX of Huaxia. God of War Lin Zhen from Gale Azure Sky Dojo of Huaxia Bingqing killed Indian God of War XXX. These words had appeared countless times. Lin Zhen was originally no longer at the top of the slaughter leaderboard, but after this crazy massacre, he once again soared to the top and left the others far behind. His current kill count had already reached 180 people. In just a short period of time, he had killed more than 100 people. F***CK. This Lin Zhen is really crazy. He's fighting so fiercely. If this goes on, even if he doesn't participate in the knockout round, I'm afraid he won't be able to spend money in this lifetime. What do you know? Lin Zhen doesn't lack money at all. He donated 30 billion at one time in Capital City. Someone must be besieging him. He must have a lot of gem fragments on him now. I think Lin Zhen is in danger. It's a pity that he can't participate in the knockout round even if he obtains more gem fragments. Of course, although Lin Zhen isn't a member of the Hall of the Famer, his strength has proven that he deserves to be in the Hall of the Famer. Who doesn't want to stand out in the knockout round? That's the highlight of the world's attention. It's useless to kill more people at this time. Look, how many Hall of the Famer members are still in the Heavenly Garden who haven't advanced? Some people began to check the number of Hall of the Famer members in the virtual world. As a result, they found that there were less than 10 Hall of the Famer members in the virtual world. Among them were the European Union's War God of Paris Chris, the European and American War God of Madrid Alice, the Saintess of Huaxia Church of God's Grace Su Mingyue, the Russian War God of Moscow Bay City Kip, and so on. What's going on? These beauties haven't advanced? My Saintess Su is still there? Who knows? I've seen Crazy's poster. Although she's wearing a mask, she should still be a super beauty. Alice is also a sexy stunner. If these goddesses aren't participating, the God of War will be a lot less interesting. I still hope to see Lin Zhen participate, but it seems that it's too late. On the big screen, another person had advanced. There were only 50 spots left. In the virtual world, not many people dared to approach Lin Jun. Who's next? Yes. Who's next? Lin Jun moved left and right with the Overlord's spear, scaring the remaining gods of war into hiding. When these people saw that they couldn't handle Lin Jun, they finally decided to retreat. Lin Jun finally found an opportunity and prepared to push the bamboo raft into the river. However, the moment he turned around, he heard a loud sound. Boom! Lin Jun was caught off guard, and the bamboo raft was quietly cut in half by the saber. Lin Jun was instantly enraged. He turned around and saw that it was Kip, one of the 3 brave warriors of Russia. After Kip's sneak attack, he immediately ran towards the bamboo forest in the distance, laughing as he ran. Lin Jun, come chase me. If you chase me, you won't be able to advance to the next round, and I'll be able to avenge my 2 brothers. This person was a natural speed user. He ran very fast. Lin Jun hesitated for a moment, but in the end, he didn't chase after him. The big picture was more important. Even if it's half a bamboo raft, it can still cross the river. Lin Jun raised his hand. The liquid metal transformed into several hooks and hooked the 2 sections of the raft together. Lin Jun couldn't care about anyone else. He pushed the raft into the water and began to cross the river. Kip poked his head out of the bamboo forest. Seeing that Lin Jun could enter the river like this, he coldly snorted. You want to advance? It's not that easy. I have a bamboo raft too. Watch me play with you in the river. Lin Jun entered the river. Although the bamboo raft could still be used, Lin Jun had originally planned to use the liquid metal as oars. Now, he could only find 2 shields to use as oars. He couldn't help but slow down a bit. From time to time, he would look at the system. Another person had advanced. There were only 20 spots left. This is bad. This time, I might have really gone too far. Those damned Russians. They're still plotting against me at the last moment. He tried his best to use the shields to paddle, but the bamboo raft continued to move slowly towards the opposite bank. Lin Jun was moving forward with great difficulty. Behind him, Kip was actually riding on a bamboo raft, cutting through the waves as he charged forward. Kip's bamboo raft was about 150 meters away from Lin Jun. That distance was outside of Lin Jun's teleportation range. When he passed by Lin Jun's bamboo raft, he turned his head and smiled. Lin Jun, bye-bye. There are only a few spots left. I think I can get one more. You, on the other hand, won't be good enough. Ah. After seeing him, Lin Jun smiled. Really? But I think I still have hope. Forget it. With that crappy bamboo raft of yours, it's as slow as a turtle. Save it. Lin Jun raised his hand and removed the liquid metal. The bamboo raft split in half. The waves in the water moved and a goldfish rushed out. Lin Jun's body rose into the air, and he borrowed the momentum of the goldfish to fly forward. He moved closer to Wei Li's bamboo raft by about 30 meters. Kip was shocked. He hurriedly tried to speed up and leave, but Lin Jun teleported another 100 meters closer. Another goldfish rushed out of the water and tried to bite Lin Jun, who was in the air. The liquid metal in his hand became a hook, and it hooked onto the bamboo raft a dozen meters away. With a pull, he dodged the goldfish. Lin Jun's body landed on the bamboo raft. Now I want to switch boats with you. Is that okay? Lin Jun smiled at Kip. Kip was a little stunned. F***ck off. The liquid metal slashed across, and Kip was eliminated by Lin Jun. Now, the 3 Russian warriors who had insulted Lin Jun were all eliminated by Lin Jun himself. At this time, someone was waiting anxiously in the garden house. Su Mingyue stood in front of a seat, anxiously pacing back and forth. She had been here for a long time, but she couldn't relax until she saw Lin Jun arrive. She had taken a seat and didn't give it to anyone. If Lin Jun didn't have a seat when he arrived, she would leave it for Lin Jun. Just as she was anxiously waiting, A woman in black armor walked in front of Su Mingyue. Su Mingyue raised her head and glanced at the woman. With a woman's intuition, she knew that this was a very outstanding woman, and that she had come for her. Looking at her a little cautiously, Su Mingyue said, "This seat is taken." The woman nodded. "I know. You left it for Lin Zhen, right?" Su Mingyue paused. "How do you know?" "Of course I know. Although the divine sex Holy Maiden is high above and respected by tens of thousands of people, she's actually just a silly girl." Su Mingyue didn't quite understand what she meant. She tilted her head and looked at her. "Haha, you're such a lovely person. No wonder Lin Zhen likes you. However, I think you can do something else," the woman said. "What do you mean? Why do you insist on taking a seat? As long as you get rid of all the newcomers, won't you be able to leave a seat for Lin Zhen?" Su Mingyue paused and shook her head. "That's not fair to the others. Silly girl, as long as you and your sweetheart can smoothly advance, who cares if it's fair to others?" Su Mingyue still lowered her head. "I don't want to do that. Moreover, I believe that Lin Zhen will arrive before the end. He's always been able to. Good. I give up, silly girl. Alright, I'll wait with you. Alice, come and take a seat. The three of us will wait here together." Alice walked over and sat beside Su Mingyue. She glanced at her. "Holy Maiden Su, you're so beautiful. I actually like you very much." Thank you," Su Mingyue replied politely. The three of them were the only remaining members of the Hall of the Exalted. No one dared to say anything about them taking up 3 seats. If someone came in, they could only go to the seats behind to advance. Chapter 237. On the streets around the world, people stared at the big screens nervously. The qualifiers were coming to an end, but a few popular warlords had yet to advance or be eliminated. No one knew what they were doing. The first one was Su Mingyue. The Star God sect was not limited to China. They were spread all over the world. As the Virgin of the God sect, Su Mingyue's popularity was global. Other countries also had saintesses, and they were all women with outstanding strength and appearance. However, they were not worth mentioning when compared to Su Mingyue. Especially after the popularization of the Internet in the past 2 years, the Church's publicity had become more and more powerful. Su Mingyue's popularity had also increased, and it had even led many young people to believe in the Church. Other than Su Mingyue, Chris and Alice were also popular in the European Union. As for Alice, she was a famous beauty in the European Union and had a lot of fans. Although Chris didn't have much of a reputation before, her sudden rise in the qualifiers, coupled with her outstanding beauty, naturally attracted a lot of attention. The black mask covered her face, but people could still tell that she was a beauty from many aspects. This aroused people's curiosity. It would be a pity if she did not advance. However, there were also many people who were paying attention to Lin Zhen. Lin Zhen, the controversial guy, had not stopped since the beginning. He was looked down upon by the Russians and fought back fiercely. First, he killed Adolf from the Far East with 1 hit. Then, he killed Lancelot in front of Hollof. Just a moment ago, he had even killed the last of the 3 Russian warriors, Kip. Now, the 3 Russian warriors had been wiped out, and the only Russian expert who had advanced was Hollof. However, if Lin Zhen did not advance, it would be a pity. Many people were looking forward to the battle between him and Hollof in the God of War arena. It would be very exciting. However, there was no activity on the big screen for a while. There were only about 1,000 people left in the Heavenly Garden. Most of them had given up on advancing and stayed in the garden to look for gemstone fragments. Another message flashed. Congratulations to Warlord XXX from Mumbai, India for advancing. There are 6 spots left. There are only 6 left. Oh my God, is there really going to be someone eliminated? May the heavens bless me. My saintess must advance. Come on, Chris. You are the hope of the EU. Lin Zhen, what are you doing, you bastard? We're all waiting for you. Ha! Lin Zhen is going to be finished. I'm so happy. If you can't advance, it doesn't matter how many people you kill. Go cry in front of your gem shards. Another message flashed across the big screen. Congratulations to the God of War XXX from the United States for advancing to the next round. There are currently 5 spots left. Before people could be surprised, another message scrolled past. Congratulations to Alice, the God of War from the European Union's Madrid base city. Currently, there are 4 spots left. Some people in the European Union breathed a sigh of relief after Alice's advancement. However, they were more concerned about the fact that Chris had yet to advance, which caused some people to worry. In the garden house, Chris looked at the few spots left behind her and said to Su Mingwei, "Now, there are only 2 spots left besides you and me. Do you still want to wait for Lin Zhen?" "I will definitely wait for him." Su Mingwei's eyes were firm. A strange look appeared in Chris's eyes. She hesitated for a moment. "Saintess Su, do you love Lin Zhen?" Su Mingwei thought for a moment. "Does it count as love if I want to be with him forever? I don't quite understand." Chris rolled her big blue eyes at Su Mingwei. "Do you think Lin Zhen loves you?" Su Mingwei nodded without hesitation. She had never doubted this point. Faced with Su Mingwei's frankness, Chris fell silent. After a while, another spot beside her was taken. There was only 1 spot left for the 2 of them to advance. Chris stood up and walked to the last spot. Before she left, she said to Su Mingwei, "These 2 spots are reserved for you. Don't let anyone else take them before Lin Zhen comes. Silly girl, I'll teach you a lesson today. If you love him, you must be with him. I believe that Lin Zhen doesn't want you to be eliminated at the cost of his advancement, because other than your lover, no one else is worthy of your attention and sacrifice. You are the saintess of the Church of God. Kindness is your nature, but sometimes, some things are more important than kindness." Su Mingwei watched Chris walk to the last spot and finally nodded to her. "I think what you said makes sense. I hope you can do it. Bye. I promise we will meet again. Yes, for a very, very long time." Chris's figure disappeared. The system sent another notification. Congratulations to the EU's Paris God of War Chris for advancing. There are 2 spots left. After Chris advanced, Su Mingwei stood in front of these 2 spots, waiting for Lin Zhen's arrival. However, the next person to enter wasn't Lin Zhen, but a God of War from China. This person was also from the capital base city. He ran all the way into the garden house. When he saw the 2 spots beside Su Mingwei, he immediately ran over. "Saintess Su, I'm so happy to see you here." When he saw Su Mingwei, he immediately became excited. This was a woman above the clouds. It was rare to see her from afar. He didn't expect to see her in the virtual world. Su Mingwei nodded. "Hello, but this spot is taken." "Ah." The God of War froze for a moment, then said, "Aren't there 2 spots? I left the other spot for someone else." "How can that be? That person hasn't arrived yet. This is called first come, first serve. This spot should be mine. As the saintess of the divine sect, how can you do such a thing? This is unfair to others." This God of War was very confident. He was also a fan of Su Mingwei. He thought he knew Su Mingwei quite well. As long as he pressured her with reason, Su Mingwei would definitely back down. However, he didn't expect Su Mingwei to not back down this time. Her face flushed red. Su Mingwei bit her red lips. "Not this time." "Why not? Have you forgotten the teachings of the divine sect? How did the starry sky true God teach you? How can you be the saintess with your actions?" Su Mingwei still shook her head. "I really can't this time. I must keep this spot. You can go." "Humph. Do you think I'll go just because you want me to?" "I won't go. You can sit there. Let's see what you can do to me." As he spoke, the warrior headed straight for a seat. He didn't believe Su Mingwei could attack him. Unexpectedly, Su Mingwei's face turned cold. A long sword appeared in her hand, and she was about to stab the God of War. However, before her sword could stab down, a rainbow-colored light suddenly flew over and pierced through the back of the war god's heart, directly eliminating her from the competition. Su Mingyue turned around and saw Lin Jun walking in. At the same time, he smiled at Su Mingyue. You've improved this time. You know how to make a choice. However, there's no need to dirty your hands with this kind of person. I'll deal with him. Su Mingyue looked at Lin Jun. Her big eyes were filled with longing. A trace of tears appeared at the corner of her eyes. What's wrong? Aren't I here now? After the war god arena ends, I think we'll meet again soon. Su Mingyue nodded slightly. When Lin Jun came closer, she gently leaned into Lin Jun's embrace. At this moment, she didn't even want to advance immediately. After being separated for so long, it was too difficult for them to meet again. Although this was just a virtual world, she was still very greedy. Smelling the elegant fragrance of Su Mingyue's hair and feeling the warmth of the beautiful body in his embrace, Lin Jun took a deep breath. Why are you so decisive this time? I thought that with your personality, you'd rather be eliminated than hurt others. Someone taught me some principles, Su Mingyue replied. Who? A foreign woman. She told me that if we like each other, we have to be together. You definitely don't want me to be eliminated as the price for your advancement. Lin Jun nodded. She's right. You should thank her. I think we'll meet again. Alright, it's about time. Let's hurry up and advance. Otherwise, others will gossip about us if we occupy the last two positions. Su Mingyue nodded and left Lin Jun's embrace. She seemed to have suddenly thought of something and said to Lin Jun, I've advanced to a dark gold telekinesis master. That's amazing. Then I really have to congratulate my little Lin Jun looked at her beautiful face and couldn't help but pinch her cheek. Su Mingyue let him pinch and said softly, When you were at the star fruit tree, did you advance to dark gold? Lin Jun nodded. That's right. I obtained a telekinesis star crystal there. After absorbing it, I advanced to dark gold. Su Mingyue's face became redder and redder. Even her white little ears seemed a little transparent. She lowered her head and didn't dare to look at Lin Jun. Her voice was like a mosquito. Then you, Lin Jun looked back at this time and felt that there were people outside approaching the garden house. He immediately pulled Su Mingyue. Be good. Let's not talk about it. More people are coming. Let's hurry up and advance. As he spoke, he pulled Su Mingyue's hand and sat side by side on two seats. Just as they were about to turn into white light and disappear, Su Mingyue suddenly leaned over. Her beautiful face was close to Lin Jun. Lin Jun closed his eyes happily. Couldn't help but take the initiative to kiss him. This was the first time. He had to enjoy it. However, Su Mingyue didn't kiss Lin Jun. Instead, she revealed 2 rows of white teeth and fiercely bit Lin Jun's neck. You. Lin Jun was in pain. He turned his head to look at Su Mingyue. However, he saw Su Mingyue glaring at him with an angry expression that he had never seen before. Then, she disappeared in front of him. After advancing, Lin Jun's body also disappeared from the garden house. In the next moment, Lin Jun opened his eyes and appeared at home. He instinctively raised his hand to touch his neck. There were no wounds on it. The wounds in the virtual world wouldn't be brought to the outside world. Suddenly, a thought flashed through his mind. Lin Jun was stunned. Then, he smiled. Fortunately, it's in the virtual world. Otherwise, Yu's punishment might not be so simple. Turns out that my bad deeds were exposed. The big screen on the street scrolled. Congratulations to Su Mingyue of China's Church of God's Grace for advancing. There is 1 spot left.